Hello, all of you climbing hungry fans out there. I hope you're all ready for some super sports action because we are here at High Point Climbing and Fitness in Birmingham, Alabama for the final leg of this 2017-2018 USA Climbing National Cup Series. My name is John Blomquist, and I am here with Hunter Medley, a route setter here at High Point, and we will be your guides through this wild ride tonight. Hunter, how excited are you for this event tonight?
I'm super stoked for it. The team here did a really good job getting this comp ready. We're psyched to be hosting it for the second year in a row.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what these athletes do, but let's go ahead and take a look at last night's qualification round running order. In 8th place, we have a local guy from Atlanta, Georgia, well, semi-local, from the south, Zach Gala. In 7th, Nicholas Milburn. 6th, the legend and 9-time National Cup winner, Daniel Woods. 5th place, we have Carlo Traversi. 4th, Matt Fultz. 3rd place, Austin Guyman. 2nd, we have Benjamin Hanna. And in 1st place, the man who's been running it all this season, Nathaniel Coleman.
And for the women, we have in 8th place, Emily Herdick. In 7th place, another Atlanta local, Audrey Miller. 6th place, we have Megan Lynch. 5th place, we have Maya Madeir. 4th place, we have Brooke Rabitou. 3rd place, we have Kyra Condi. 2nd place, and the crowd favorite, Margot Hayes. In 1st place, Alex Puccio.
So before we get started talking too much about what went on last night and how things are about to shake out, I do want to say that we are going to be fielding your questions and comments on the USA Climbing Twitter page as often as we can. So if you guys do have any questions or comments or need some clarification, we'll do our absolute best to get to those. So feel free to talk to us on Twitter at USA Climbing. So you can hit us up there. This is the final leg of this whole series, the National Cup Series, so we've seen 3 competitions before. Right now they're doing athlete interviews, but I kind of wanted to point out or athlete introductions and preview, but I kind of wanted to point out some of the more interesting facts from the series and kind of what happened last night in the qualifiers. Obviously, Alex Puccio is in 1st place. She's taken 2 of the 4 competitions, and the only one to beat her thus far was Margot Hayes at Battle of the Bay. And Margot wasn't at the last comp, but she's here tonight, and I'm not sure, how did Margot look last night?
She looked really solid. There was one boulder that she kind of struggled with that was more powerful, but she crushed every other boulder, so she looked really strong, and she's a good contender to top Alex.
Yeah, and one of the really great things I think the route setters did last night was in the qualification round, there were 10 boulder problems for the females to climb, and the top 4 females, we're looking at Alex Puccio, Margot Hayes, Brooke Rabitou, and Kyra Condi. The 4 of them, they all topped all 10, but it came down to attempts on certain boulder problems, and it really showed that the route setters did a great job of making the climbers climb all different styles, strengths, technical abilities, etc. So, we saw Alex Puccio struggle a little bit on a run and jump. It took her a couple tries. We had Brooke Rabitou and Kyra Condi both struggle a little bit on a slab problem, but be able to take care of that. So it really showed the great route setting and challenge that these athletes are up against. We've also got Kyra Condi, who's finished 3rd place in both the Violet Crown and the Yankin Yard in New Mexico. But, Kyra's constantly training, and she's a great competitor and definitely has a shot for the top of the podium this go-around. But I think one of the most interesting questions, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think everybody wants to know in the males category, can anyone beat Nathaniel Coleman? He has been 3 competitions out of 4 in 1st place, and looks like he's not stopping.
Yeah, he was the only male to top all 4 or all 10 boulders last night. So one of them was quoted by Ben as untoppable, and Nathaniel proved it was toppable. So I'm pretty excited to see if any of them can take him down.
Yeah, it was an excellent show last night. Nathaniel was kind of milling about by himself. He took a lot of breaks, and a lot of these climbers like to qualify together. They work on the same boulder problems. They kind of hype each other up. They see what everybody's doing. You kind of gain beta from others. And here we have Nathaniel Coleman kind of walking around pretty much by himself, taking lots of breaks, taking his time. And all the other athletes had tried that. Many of the people grabbed the finish. Many of the competitors grabbed the finish hold, but were unable to match it for the full top points of 25. And they walked away from it deeming that, in order to qualify, you probably weren't going to have to top that. And then Nathaniel came out of resting for a little bit. He fell a handful of times, but was finally able to match that finish, and that's what secured him the first place finish, which just goes to show that Nathaniel, thus far in the series, has pretty much been in a league of his own.
Yeah, definitely. And another story is Zach Gala, who is a local in the southeast area, a little bit of a dark horse in this comp, coming out and did really strong in the qualifiers. Looked good on all the boulders. He got to the top of this boulder that Nathaniel topped. Just wasn't able to match that finish hold. So look out for him because he might come away with a podium.
Yeah, and the thing is Zach Gala qualified in 8th place. But I mean, he looked great all night throughout the qualifiers. He was campusing things. I mean, he looks super strong. I haven't known much about Zach Gala at all, mainly because he's youth competitor in the Southeast, and so I don't get to cross paths with him. So he's a little bit of a dark horse to anybody who's not familiar with the youth climbing circuit. But I mean, the guy was holding his own against all of these seasoned competitors. He's definitely the youngest in the men's field. He's 17, and everybody else, Benjamin Hanna's 18, and everybody else is 20s, upper 20s, so he's definitely a young gun. He's also one of the shortest, but do not count him out. I would not be surprised if he ended up on the podium.
Yeah, he definitely surprises you being so short, but able to pull out some of these boulders that might be a little bit more reachy or a little bit more dynamic. He pulls it out. He's definitely really strong competitor. Competed in the youth world circuit. And so, yeah, watch out for Zach. He could come away with a podium.
So right now, for those who are unaware of what's going on, if you're just joining us for the first time, these climbers have 2 minutes to preview these routes and kind of try and figure out how to do them. They can talk about how to do the climbs together, bounce ideas off of each other. They're allowed to touch the start holds with their hands, but they're not allowed to leave the ground. They're not allowed to touch any other holds. So they get 2 minutes per boulder problem to just kind of suss it out, kind of get an idea of what they're up against before they go back into ISO and we begin this competition.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the strategies these competitors take. Are they sharing beta, or are they keeping a little bit of beta secret? So it's a cool little event for these competitors to kind of sit around and see what strategies they can come up with just looking at these boulders.
Yeah, and a lot of times it comes down to a little bit of trickery on behalf of the route setters and trying to get these athletes, kind of backwards or uncomfortable. But, I mean, these are really strong athletes, and they kind of know what's going on. And so, the coolest part I think about climbing is that most of these athletes have no problem, talking about how to do a boulder problem or what their strategy is, because when it comes to the end of the day, the only person who can beat you is kind of yourself. A lot of these athletes look at it as they're really in competition against themselves, not so much the other climbers. And so it really creates a friendly environment. You can see everybody kind of laughing and smiling and talking about beta together. It's a really cool thing to see these athletes work together, even though they're technically competing against each other.
You have 1 minute remaining.
So one thing that I'm really excited to kind of see is that, Nathaniel Coleman obviously is sitting real pretty in first place for the overall championship. He has 300 points, 100 points for each time he got first place. And the podium's kind of moved around a little bit for the other competitors in the meantime throughout the competitions. We have Carlo Traversi sitting in second place overall with 185 points. So there's a huge gap, but the thing is that tonight whoever gets first place will gain those 100 points. And then moving on to the Open National Championships in Salt Lake, those points double. So potentially if Nathaniel Coleman gets 8th place and ends up with the lowest amount of points and somebody takes first, gets those 100, and then moving on to the Open National Championships where they could potentially get double. I mean, somebody could still take the overall championship from Nathaniel Coleman. It's not likely because the man is just steamrolling the competition right now, but barring some catastrophic event, it's still possible for somebody to end up with the national championship over him. So, or overall, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and on the flip side for the females, Alex Puccio has been demolishing this comp as well. But Margot Hayes has competed in one comp and did beat her in that one comp. So it's really exciting to see if she can take down Alex Puccio again. If not, Alex Puccio might run away with this comp and be sitting pretty heavily as favorites for the National Cup.
And while we're talking about Margot Hayes because she's the only one thus far who has beaten Alex Puccio in this National Cup Series of 2017-2018. However, Kyra Condi and Brooke Rabbitoux are right on her heels. Kyra has finished third in the two competitions that she competed in. Brooke, I believe, finished second at Yankin Yard, if I'm not mistaken. Second at Yankin Yard, and then she has been in finals every time, along with, let's not count out Maya Madere, who also she's made finals every single time as well. She's one of those lesser-known climbers. She's only been climbing for 6 or 7 years, and she's young, she's fresh, but she's been in finals every time.
Yeah, and she looked really strong in the youth circuit this year. Went to Worlds, competed and did really well in Worlds with her. And, sorry, the name is blanking me. Who else competed? Claire Brumfield, my bad. Sorry, her name left me. But both of them have done really well in the Worlds. Claire's not here at this comp, and she didn't compete. But really excited to see what Maya does in this comp, and hopefully she can top a few of these boulders and give Alex a run.
Definitely. So one thing I did want to mention, some of the athletes who we expect to see that aren't here are going to be competing today. Sierra Blair-Coyle did not make it out for this competition, but I talked to her. She said that she's planning on just resting up for the Open National Championships because she wanted to take some time, just focus on training, relax, and come out even stronger. So she's taking some time off. Claire Burfine, she's going to be in Waco, so she's not here this week. And Keenan Takahashi is also climbing outside. So Keenan took second at the last competition, which is amazing because that guy came out of the woodwork. And nobody really knew who he was if you didn't know him already, and he just dominated. So
yeah, it's kind of interesting to see the strategy some of these competitors are taking. Sitting out this comp, maybe that will bode well for them in the Cup. Getting injury-free, getting some rehab done, and just getting stronger. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Cup is going to be like.
Absolutely. So it looks like the previews are finished up. We're just kind of waiting for this show to get on the road. The format, if you guys don't know it, we've got 5 minutes to climb on, 5 minutes off for the competitors. So we're going to start off with one climber, and then as we move through, eventually we're going to have 4 climbers on the wall. The action's going to get really exciting. So we're just waiting for this to kind of kick off here.
Yeah, and we got a good turnout here in Birmingham. A lot of these guys are new to climbing as a local, and so they're pretty excited to see this comp coming on and see some of these athletes put on a great show. And I know the route setters are really psyched on these boulders, and hopefully it's going to be a great show.
If we're judging by what happened last night and the qualifications there, I have no doubt that we are going to see some world-class bouldering rock climbs because everything looks great, and these guys know exactly how to challenge the climbers in every aspect, because what we want to see at the end is not just the strongest one who can just pull super hard, and we don't just want to see the one who can balance their whole way through all these technical climbs. We need to see everything, the full spectrum. We want to see these climbers be challenged strength-wise. We want to see their mental capacities challenged where they can't figure out beta or they have to go for a risky move. And I really think that these route setters, those gentlemen in the orange jacket there, did a fantastic job at just challenging them on all fronts. So we're hopefully at the end of the night going to get the most well-rounded, strongest, most technically savvy climber at the top of this podium, and we'll see who it ends up being.
Yeah, and the terrain here is not as vertical as a lot of other places, but the route setters did a great job adding in some slabby type of climbing and non-vertical terrain. So shout out to those route setters for all the hard work they put in this week.
All right, and down there you can see Al. He's the MC this evening, dressed up dapper, looking good and getting the crowd super psyched.
here is Zach Gala trying men's one for the first time. As I said, he's sort of a local in the Southeast. Keep an eye on him. He's going to look really solid, hopefully, this comp.
And again, for climbers like this gentleman here, Zach Gala, and also for a couple of the ladies that we didn't quite mention yet, who are coming into this competition as youth climbers, Emily Herdick is a 15-year-old. She qualifies because she'll be 16 by the end of the season. So she's super young. These are youth climbers, and they're competing on a professional level right now. It's very impressive.
Yeah, it's great that our youth program here in the U.S. has really gotten off. I know a lot of the competitors in the Atlanta area and Team ABC also has been producing a lot of strong youth competitors at a young age, and Zach is just a testament to that, and so is Audrey Miller and Emily Herdick. They're both from the youth Team ABC and the Stone Summit team, so we're psyched to see them do well in this comp and be the future of rock climbing for USA.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing right now, there's 3 scoring zones with the tops. The top's most important. If he got up there the first try, he'd get the full 25 points. There's 4 boulder problems, which all equals 100. It makes it really nice and round for us spectators at home to try and figure out how everybody's doing. We see that Zach's made it to this 10-point round, 10-point zone, and now he's just trying to secure those 15 points up there.
Yeah, this boulder is a little bit risky. Nice. And we see Zach just kind of cruising on his second attempt. That boulder was not that easy. Zach made it look really, really easy.
And an interesting thing, too, is, something these route setters have to keep in mind throughout this whole competition is the variation in size as well. I mean, Zach is one of the shorter climbers in this round. I believe he is 5'6". And the tallest climber is 6 foot. So, they have to keep in mind that it's not always going to be exactly fair, but, when they're doing something that's going to be a big reach, kind of like what we saw on that move up to that tiny 15 crimp, Zach really has to reach for that where somebody else might not have to, but I'm sure somewhere down the line these route setters are going to balance that out by getting everybody scrunched up or stretched out or jumping. It's a really interesting way for the route setters to challenge everybody in different ways.
Yeah, and this boulder just seemed to suit Zach really well, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gives some of these other competitors some trouble. Watching the route setters forerun this boulder, it's not that easy. Zach he's done really well and did really strong on this boulder. So it's a great first boulder, and let's hope for a great second boulder too for men's and for women's one too.
So the way this round works is that they've got those 5 minutes to climb. So since Zach was able to finish that boulder before his time was up, he's able to sit down, kind of get some extra rest as the clock runs out, and then we're going to see our first female climber, Emily Herdick, come out. Emily is a Boulder, Colorado local. She's on Team ABC. She's 15 years old, and she's a bit of a dark horse. You just wouldn't expect a 15-year-old to just come through and crush. I mean, Brooke Rabitou, who's also in finals, she's 16, but she's been kind of running things for a little bit. She's an amazing climber, also from Team ABC out of Boulder. As we see, a lot of these girls in the finals throughout this series have all been Team ABC girls.
Yeah, Team ABC has been producing a lot of strong females. Emily did come in 4th in a bouldering regional out in Colorado earlier this year or start of December last year. So I'm really psyched to see her climb. I don't know much about her personally, but I'm really psyched to see her climb, and she looked really strong yesterday in the qualifiers.
Definitely. And I can imagine for these youth climbers who may or may not have attended a comp of this caliber, part of climbing is a lot of mental as well. So you've got these youth climbers who are coming in here, and this is the first time they've been on a stage with the lights on them and the crowd screaming. Youth nationals is a little bit different because a lot of climbers tend to climb all at the same time. So you just kind of, the noise kind of drowns out a bit. But these climbers, when they're on the wall, that crowd is screaming for them. The pressure is on them to figure it out. If you start struggling on a move and you can't get past it, that starts to get into your nerves. And so these climbers really have to also focus on, trying to calm down, trying to focus on what's going on. And for, I think, some of these younger climbers like Zach Gala, Emily Herdick, Audrey Miller, Megan Lynch, we'll see how their head stays together when, the crowd's screaming at them and the camera's on them.
Yeah, this boulder does look a little tricky. It looks a little slabby, but as you can see, the top of that wall is overhung. So I'm really intrigued to see how this boulder starts out.
One thing to point out for scoring, if you're not familiar with it as well, is in order to avoid ties in the zoning, in the point scored zones, every time a competitor falls, they're deducted 0.1 points up to their high point, up to when they were able to first achieve that high point. So, that kind of helps break up ties and really makes it so that the climbers have to try and get through this boulder problem on the first go, which is the most important thing you can do for yourself as a competitor in this competition.
Yeah, I'm really encouraged to see that USA has been doing a lot of work to try to simplify the scoring, making it easier for them and also for the audience to understand. So kudos to Team USA Climbing for getting it all set up and adapting and overcoming.
Yeah, everything I've heard about this new scoring system from the athletes, from viewers, from, I think just like from the officials, just about everybody that I've talked to really loves this new scoring system. It's a great system for viewers to understand. Athletes can understand it better. It's really a great scoring system, and I think has simplified a lot of things. And so it's really cool to see it in action and see it working. And I think it's just a great change to the format.
Emily is struggling a little bit to get to this number 5 point. It seems a little tricky of a move to fall down and grab that hold. That hold is not good. It's a very, very small edge you're grabbing it. So a lot of this is more in your technique with your ability to step out and land with that foot than it is just actually crushing that hold.
And she's got just under 3 minutes. So we've got Emily trying to get as far as she can in those 3 minutes. This is really, from the route setting standpoint, this is one of those balance coordination moves. And it's something that's going to test these climbers, because not only do they have to kind of move over slowly and step down onto that thing without falling back and away from the wall, but they also have to spot the foot and grab the hold at the same time. And so, Emily's really trying to just focus on coordinating like 3 points of her body as she's moving through the air as well. And so, on top of strength, we're testing technique, coordination, head game, everything when the route setters are setting these boulder problems.
Yeah, as you can see that little hold a little bit better, you can see that it's not a great hold. The feet are really big, but that hold's not great. And like you said, this is all muscles firing at the same time to stick this move and land this move. So it looks a little trickier than it looks. So I was psyched to see some more female competitors on this climb, and psyched to see Emily as she progresses and try to get this top.
Just about a minute, 30 seconds left. This isn't an overly physical boulder problem here in the beginning, so Emily doesn't, she won't, I don't think, hurt herself later on in the round by giving it as many attempts as she can. It's definitely holding on to some small holds, but it's not super physically taxing. Whereas if it were a physically taxing boulder problem, you might see her making the decision to take more time to rest and kind of not overexert herself. But right now, what she needs is points.
Yeah, it was real nice of the route setters to give them this boulder as the first one, so that they don't get drained for the end of the comp. So hopefully we'll see some really cool finishes at the end if they don't drain too much of their energy.
Yeah, don't worry. The rest of them look pretty hard. So
yeah,
they all look really hard.
They do.
All right, just about 40 seconds left for Emily to try and get out to that 10 spot.
Shout out to all these locals who came out and volunteered to judge and to help rush and all that. They're all volunteers here to help make this event run smoothly.
10 seconds.
All right, so next up, we're going to see Zach Gala on men's 2, along with Nick Milburn on men's 1. Nick Milburn has been to every competition, if I'm not mistaken, this season. And the man is a seasoned competitor. I mean, he's just like super strong. We saw him at all of the other competitions come through and crush it. He's 22 years old, and he hails from Signal Mountain, Tennessee.
Yeah, he's moved down to Chat locally, and so he spends most of his time in Chattanooga working on all that great southern sandstone in the Chattanooga area. But really psyched to see what he does in this boulder, as we saw Zach top this boulder, so we'll see what Nick can do.
And Nick's just a super strong, I mean, he's like physically strong, but he's also an incredibly intelligent technical climber too. We see that throughout the season. There's times where he just like pulls out that raw strength, and there's times where he has to kind of finagle his way through something, and he never really fails to just impress me in one way or another throughout a competition. He's looking good right now.
Yeah, he's crushing this boulder, grabbing that crimp. That crimp, again, is not that good, so he's just grabbing that crimp and crushing it.
Yeah, so that's a flash for him. He did that his first go, which means that he gets the full 25 points, whereas, you know, if we go back to Zach Gala, which we're seeing him on men's boulder number 2 right now, it took Zach a couple tries, so he's going to be deducted however many attempts it took him to get up to that top, which will create the separation as we go through this competition of how many attempts it takes somebody to get through a climb.
Zach's looking really strong on this men's 2 boulder. Pulling up, going for that finish hold right now.
It looks like we've got a top from Zach Gala on men's 2. I wasn't quite sure if that was his first go or if that was his second attempt, but I mean, we've got 2 tops from Zach Gala. Like we said, we can't count that guy out just because he's young, just because he's a youth competitor, just because we've got these other experienced pros who've been competing on this level for so long. Zach Gala looked really good last night, and he's looking really good through these first 2 boulder problems.
Yeah, he's been, hopefully he's the crowd favorite here as an Atlanta boy, but he's been crushing out throughout the Southeast, all the hard boulders outside. He's been cruising through them and knocking them off, taking them off left and right. So he's definitely really, really strong, as you see, just really pulling those crimps down and finishing that boulder.
Yeah, and you know, it's really interesting the way these comps are set up. You know, we put the climbers in coming out into this final round in reverse order, which, you know, in theory means that, you know, you would get the weakest climber, the less round climber out first at that 8th place, and it would work its way up to, you know, in theory, the strongest climber who's in first place. But the thing is that there's so many factors, including the boulders themselves, fatigue, how somebody is faring that day, and especially when you get to this level where all of these climbers are just so incredibly strong. And we see with somebody like Zach Gala that, you know, though he is coming into qualifiers in that 8th place, I mean, he just crushed the first 2 boulders, and we may see, you know, Nick Bimmelburn or Carlo Traversi or any of these other competitors, Austin Guyman, come out and struggle where Zach hadn't. So,
yeah, all these competitors looked really strong last night, but I mean, today's a new day, so they could come out and something just be off and just not perform well. So, really psyched to see the rest of these comps, the rest of these boulders. So it'll be a great show. So we had 2 tops in males and haven't seen a top yet in females. So.
All right, just about a minute left before our next female competitor comes out. Keep in mind, we are fielding questions or comments on Twitter. So go to @USA Climbing on Twitter and go ahead and let us know what you guys are thinking. If you guys have any questions or comments, and let us know. We'll respond.
And it did look like Zach Gala flashed boulder number 2, so he got the full 25 points worth on that boulder. So that was an awesome job by Zach. Really excited to see Nicholas on that boulder too.
Also, if you go over to usaclimbing.org and go to the National Series comp page, you can find the live results so that you guys can keep your eyes out for those live scores, kind of keep an eye on what's going on. We'll be showing them periodically, but as they update, they should be on the website if you guys need to catch those live. So keep an eye out over there. Go ahead and follow along. That way you'll have a better idea of how these athletes are doing on top of the commentary we are providing. All right, right, so we here have Emily Herdick on women's 2. We have not seen this boulder yet. We don't know how it's going to go. Next on the women's boulder 1, we have Audrey Miller. Audrey is also an unknown to me, but she's from Stone Summit over in Georgia. She's 18 years old, and she is also a youth competitor who's happened to make it into this competition because she just came out of the woodwork strong and confident.
Yeah, Audrey has done well. She placed first place in the youth regionals Stone Summit hosted last month. She is a great youth competitor. I know I personally set a few boulders or routes that she's competed on, so she definitely takes you by surprise at how strong she is. But and as you see, she stuck this number 5 on women's 1. Let's see if we can get a top out of this boulder.
Yeah, she's looking pretty comfortable right now, which is really great. You know, she's trying to find that foot over there. And again, these feet are huge, but it's like around a corner, tougher to get to. And again, it comes down to balance, body positioning, hip placement, you know, and just trying to figure out how to get that momentum to get up to that number 10 hold.
See Emily assessing women's 2. It looks like you have to do a face-out start on the beginning press. I know the route setters definitely love face-out start pressy. So really psyched on this boulder. It looked really powerful. So let's see how Emily does with this one.
I love face-out starts too. It really, you know, it kind of gets the climber interacting with the crowd, whether they interact intentionally or not. You know, the crowd gets to look at their faces. They're trying to suss these out. It's a really interesting boulder problem. I love when you get trapped in these little dihedrals and the route setters really force you to I mean, this is one of those climbs where as a climber, if you can't figure out the move, it starts to get in your head. It starts to be frustrating and you can't really figure out what you're doing. All right, let's see how Audrey got through this. Hopefully we'll get a repeat and we'll be able to see what she did here.
As you see, this move, it's not easy. As she stuck at her first attempt, she struggled on her second attempt. So just because you do it once doesn't mean you can do it again. So I'm really psyched to see this boulder as it progresses in the field.
It's a great shot of both of them right here. We'll see Emily hopefully be able to get through this tricky little sequence at the beginning of this boulder problem.
Yeah, I think she got through this move her first attempt, but her second attempt looked like a little bit more struggling, but she's looking kind of solid through this part right now. See if she can get those feet sorted, get to see how flexible she is. I know y'all can't see that hold on there, but she's going to another press on one of those element slopers. So it's not a hold that you can actually grab and pull on. You're just kind of leaning in and pressing on that hold. So she doesn't really have anything she can grab and pull on right now. So
there we go. Oh.
Yeah, she just about had that 5th hold.
This is interesting. You can see Audrey really testing out different body positions, different techniques here, because the last time we saw her attempt that move, she kind of kept her left foot flagged way out left, and that ended up kind of barn-dooring her body around, and that time she kind of just tried to hop straight down onto that hold, and both ways seem like they would work for her. We'll see which one she likes the best.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see these competitors change their beta or stick with the same beta. I know sometimes it gets frustrating to change beta, but maybe that's the best route. So Audrey's looking pretty intelligent right now, trying out different things. She's trying to progress farther. And so she's looking like a little bit of a seasoned competitor from the youth circuit.
Yeah, you know, these youth competitors, even though we haven't seen them before in these pro-level comps, a lot of these climbers have been competing on the youth circuit at regionals, divisionals, nationals for many years. So they are used to these tricks. So Audrey's made it to that 5-point again, which she did last time. She's been here before, and so now we just need to hope that she can make it up to that 10-point hold.
She just slipped off, making progression off that 5-point hold, but I don't know if she'll have time to get back on it.
This is a hard timer stop, so as soon as this 15 seconds are done, whether they're on the wall or not, they have to jump off. There's no added time, no 5+.
see as she controlled 10. She has 4 seconds. Can she progress? Oh,
So yeah, that's awesome that she was able to get back on. She did not give up. She got those 10 points in the last couple seconds. Out now, we're going to see Zach on men's 3, Nick Milburn on men's 2, and 9-time national champion Daniel Woods, who we haven't seen all season, on men's 1. And Daniel Woods, as you guys I'm sure know, like I said, he's 9-time national champion. The dude goes around, crushes V15. He hasn't been in the comp circuit a whole lot recently, and he hasn't been at all this season. This is the first time we're going to see this guy, but you can't count him out because he is just a fantastic climber.
Yeah, and he took 2nd place at this comp last year, and Sean Rabbity took 1st, which is not in this comp, so really exciting to see if he can take some redemption and take 1st place this comp.
He definitely made that look easy, but with Daniel Wood's experience, he is light, he's thin, he's sinewy, he loves crimps, and that guy can just crimp onto anything.
As you see, Nicholas is wrestling with his volumes at the start of this. There's no holds on this. It's just all volumes that they're working through.
What's really cool about this set as well, on the blocks just that Nick was on just before that, the way they kind of match up on the wall creates a hold underneath them that we don't get to see. Hopefully we'll get a good view of that in the future, but it's a really cool way to set this up that the route setters planned out. This is also our first look of men's 3. Looks like a huge dyno.
Oh, looks like a little dynamic action. Have to hit those 2 so-ill innies and then grab that cheetah hold up there, 5-point value. And you see Nick topping out boulder number 2. Congrats. He didn't flash it, but he got the 2nd attempt.
Wow. Zach just showing us how incredibly strong he is, just campusing his way through those roof moves. We are seeing a lot of early tops here.
Zach just catching that hold with 3 fingers and hanging on. That was really impressive.
Some very impressive contact strength. His hands seemed to slip a little bit, and he just reeled it back in.
He's looking really good this comp, topping 3 boulders so far. So it's going to be a tough field for the competitors to catch Zach.
So Noah Young at Noah Young 75 is asking, do you think Daniel could win tonight? What are your thoughts on that one?
Looking at these boulders, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of some tricky stuff that I think Nathaniel definitely has a little bit of edge on. And we haven't seen Daniel much in this comp, in this series. So he's been taking some time off. I'm intrigued. If I would have to bet, I would, have to stick with the favorite, Nathaniel. But hopefully Daniel can put on a great show and maybe take away a win.
I definitely wouldn't be surprised given Daniel's experience and his know-how and just his overall strength. He's got a great attitude, just like all of these competitors. It's really great to see everybody just having a lot of fun out there and trying their hardest, no matter how well they do.
Yeah, as you see the crowd, they're getting psyched, cheering on these competitors. This is a great event for them. They're definitely exciting that this comp is back again for the 2nd year in a row. We're psyched to be hosting again.
So it looks like we've got 2 flashes from Nick Milburn. He flashed both the men's 1 and men's 2 boulder problems. We'll see if this trend continues. Nick's looking strong tonight, but there's a whole lot of competition still ahead of us. So,
yeah, and Zach got that boulder on his 3rd attempt. That's really impressive to learn that one move and then just take it to the top after that. It was a really impressive show by Zach and Nick. And Nick has flashing that boulder. The boulder was not easy, as you saw Zach fell on it, but. We are about to see Megan Lynch out on women's 1 in about 20 seconds. Megan is another unknown competitor. It's her first comp of the series. But
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say she's from Earth Treks in Rockville, Maryland. So people of the East Coast here may have an idea of who Megan is. We may have seen her if you're part of the youth circuit, but for those of us who are following this pro series, it's great to see these youth competitors come out and just be able to crush and make it into finals with some of the top competitors in the field.
Yeah, it's been really exciting through the series, just seeing these unknown climbers just come out of nowhere and being in finals. And a lot of strong competitors and experienced competitors have competed in qualifiers and not advanced, but these unknown climbers just show up and show out on these boulders and qualifiers and have advanced to finals. So it's been really exciting to see this series.
Here's our first view of women's number 3. Those are some really slopey flat hold slopers. If you've ever climbed on those things, the texture on them is very fine grained. You can see Emily's hand slipping a little bit on that number 10 point.
That was a really strong move, just camping up to that and sticking that flat hold. As he said, those flat holds are not that good. So she was definitely looking really strong on that. Hopefully she can get a top from that boulder.
Yeah, and one thing that the judges are looking for when these climbers are climbing is when they hit those scored zone areas is they're looking for control. And the control means that they're able to grab the hold, maintain control for 2 seconds or more, maybe move off of it, but they're looking to see that they have control. So if a climber just slaps at a hold, even though they touch it, they don't necessarily get the points. And what we're looking for is having control on those holds.
As you see, Audrey is making progress with women's 2. Hopefully we can see her get through this lip. Just fell trying to reach for that jug around that lip. You can see Megan on women's 1 over there trying to learn that move. Emily trying to make progress on women's 3, getting back to where, almost back to where she was. Let's see if she does some different bait or just tries to campus again.
As these climbers, continue to climb as well, they're going to slowly get more and more fatigued. Looked like she definitely gained control of that number 10.
Yeah, that definitely looked like better beta on that, just setting that heel so you can control that number 10 hold. Audrey flying through the air and grabbing that jug out there. That was really impressive.
That's a really interesting strategy, too. If you just saw her, she reached out with her left hand and grabbed that 10-point zone just to maintain control, which means she got those points, but she knew in the end she's going to have to go right hand. So she did get the points for grabbing with her left hand because she maintained control on that. It was a really smart thing to do as a competitor, is make sure you get the points first, even if you know that's not the way you're going to go through it.
Audrey looking like a seasoned competitor from that youth circuit.
About 2 minutes left for these climbers, these competitors. It looks like we've got Megan Lynch over there still trying to figure out, a little frustrated on that first move. It's tricky, and it's going to be interesting to see, some of the more seasoned competitors come out, Alex Puccio, Kyra Condi, Brooke Rabitu, and see what they do. Because they've had more experience on these coordination moves, these big competition, tricky route setting moves. So it'll be interesting to see if they come out and have the same struggles on that first move as the rest of these competitors.
See if Audrey can get a little bit farther on this women's 2. She fell again, going for that 15th hold. Let's see if we can see this action on this big move around this lip.
At Larry Bird says these women's boulder problems are insane, and I do not disagree with you. They're definitely putting these girls through their paces.
Yeah, I was walked in and looked at some of these boulders, and I was shocked to find out like some of these boulders were the women's. But kudos to their outsetters for challenging the women and giving them some strong and powerful boulders to do.
There we go. Good shot of the swing.
Got about 25 seconds left to see if they can advance any farther in this boulder. Megan did gain control of that 5th hold, so she definitely got those points.
Gaining that 15 hold on women's 2 looks like a tough maneuver because they're so stretched out in that mantle press. They're really going to have to activate, their core and their legs and push up and really just try and get high enough. This is our first view of Carlo Traversi out there. This guy has been to every competition so far this season and has been doing really well. He's made finals each time. He's a very seasoned competitor. I'm sure you guys all know about Carlo.
Yeah, he took second in the Battle of the Bay. He took third in Violet Crown. He had a little bit struggle with Yanking Yard, taking last place, but he still made finals, and he's turned out a good score for overall. As you see, Nick trying to learn that move on men's 2. Get dynamic and having to slap those innies to grab that cheetah hold. I'm intrigued by Daniel on this boulder, his wrestling with these volumes, to see how well he does to get through these. I feel like once he gets to that last volume, he's not going to have too much of a problem crushing those cramps.
Yeah, it's really, again, like the body position, the maneuver, trying to figure out which hold. They don't have, you're not informed by the direction of a hold on these because you can grab a couple spots on those volumes. So this is just challenging their ability to really like suss out the beta and figure out their way through the boulder problem.
As you see, Nick struggling a little bit with that men's 2, and we get a great look at Carlo topping out men's 1.
So far, every male competitor has been able to top men's 1. It looks like they've all been able to flash it except for Zach Gala. If that was a flash from Carlo, we'll get that information back to you in just a moment. Daniel Woods, just slipping off the last hold. That's where predictions fail.
Yeah, I was definitely wrong on that. I figured he would have crushed that. Here's a good look at men's 4. Zach trying to figure out these moves. Watch the route setters run this boulder. It's a little tricky up there, and it's really, really hard.
Men's 4, 13 meters. Not my cup of tea.
You can see Daniel there trying to figure out his beta. Again, when you're down here, when you're on the ground looking at the beta, you might have an idea, or when you're doing your preview, have an idea of how you think it's going to be. And just like, we thought that once he'd get to those crimps that it wouldn't be a problem. I'm sure he thought that too. Now that he's down there, he's having to try and figure out, what went wrong, how he can correct it, what the next step is so that he maintains the full value of points that he can get.
Saw Nick there just went up and grabbed those innies and just compressing it instead of doing Zach's beta and hitting those innies and going to that cheetah hold. He just looked really strong there. And let's see if he can get the top here.
We're also seeing Nick use different beta moving through that section because we had Zach campus it. He did a one-arm campus turnaround, and here Nick's opting to keep his feet on, match holds, and move through to this volume. Again, different beta, same result, hopefully. See if Nick can pull it out in the long run.
Ooh, Nick just fell on men's 3, but Zach is looking pretty solid over here on men's 4. Let's see if he can get a top.
That hold is big, but it is really slopey. I heard the Routsiders talking about how it's just going to slowly get worse throughout the night without brushing. As we see smart competitors come out, they're going to see that hold and most likely brush it down with those tall stick brushes.
Zach just missed that hole and might need to figure out some new beta so he can keep his feet on there. Campusing to that hole does definitely look hard and might not be the correct beta for that.
And again, coming back to control, he definitely had the control on that number 10. When he reached for the 15, he grabbed it, his hand blew off. Most likely, if I had to guess, the judge is not going to give him the points for that 15, which means if he wants those points, he's going to have to go through the problems of getting up there again. And considering it's his 4th boulder problem, he's got 48 more seconds. He needs to get on it because he can't move fast through that boulder.
Yeah, it looked like Daniel called quits on men's 2, so Daniel's not going to see a top on men's 2. He just got the 15-point value and he's not going to see that top. So as we saw, Nick and Zach both topped that boulder. Daniel did not.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting strategy. Sometimes it pays off if you know that some stronger boulders are coming up. You're going to save yourself some effort. But again, he can see the scores. We've got the scores up, which is not a normal thing for past competitions. He knows where he stands, and he's still choosing to sit down and take a break instead of doing that climb, thinking that maybe he's going to need that extra energy, extra strength later on.
So that looks like only Carlo Traversi topped in this round. Men's 1, both men's 3 and 4 did not get topped this round. So I'm really, as the competitors keep going out, it's interesting to see this field stretch out and spread out.
All right, so out on women's 1, we are going to have Maya Madere. She has been to every competition. She's been in finals every competition. She has not made podium yet, but that girl is very strong. She's only been climbing for 6 years, and it's very impressive to see her continually make finals over and over and over again.
Yeah, we get a good look at women's 4 here. You see all those pinches by Rock Candy. That boulder looks really insanely hard. That is a steep angle in that wall terrain. So I'm really intrigued to see some of these women show off their power and their strength.
This is also a good view of Audrey on women's 3. She's proven so far through women's 1 and 2 that she is able to make it through these boulder problems and do really well. She looked really comfortable up to that number 10 zone, and she was moving up to 15 pretty comfortably before she slipped off. So hopefully she'll be able to see that 15 and hopefully get a top on this boulder problem too.
Yeah, Maya's over here trying to figure out women's 1. The start move is definitely tricky. Those first 2 moves are really hard. So might not even see a top on this boulder. It's definitely going to be interesting to see some of these other competitors come out and see what their technique and experience is like.
It'll be interesting especially to see Alex Puccio, because Alex struggled with a run jump in the Violet Crown. Granted, she's had some neck surgery, some vertebrae fused in her neck, and so looking back is a little tough for her, so those reverse run jumps are definitely a challenge. But then we also saw in qualifiers last night there was a run jump, and it took her 3 tries, I believe, to nail that run jump. So recently, which we haven't seen in the past, run jumps have given her a little bit of a problem. So we'll see if that kind of step up to that hold on women's 1 is going to give her any problems at all.
Yeah, and you got a good look of women's 4, that first move, just kind of swinging and dropping down and jumping up and grab that pinch. That pinch is not the best. It's got a good little lip on it, but it's definitely not good if you don't have any feet to oppose it.
I love watching these girls try and figure out this women's 2 dihedral that you see on the left side of the screen here. Oh, there's a good shot of it. It looks like Megan is figuring out how to get there. She just can't get around that lip, and it's definitely, you're trying to look above your head, behind you. It's not easy. There's some control on 15 from Audrey.
She just about was able to match that and get over to that finish hold. It looks like she's looking really solid this comp. That boulder is really, really hard. The root setters had some trouble with that finish move. Had to move some things around. It's not an easy boulder. None of these boulders for the women competitors are easy. They are really stout and really hard, and these competitors are doing a good job figuring things out.
I'm actually surprised that Maya is having such a tough time with this first move. She's proven throughout the whole season that she's really experienced.
Yeah, and Megan almost was able to grab that jug around the lip. That move looks big and dynamic, and so it's a good hold, but it's not an easy move to that hold.
Yeah, and you can see she's got a little bit of frustration. She knows she can get it. She's got 1:30 seconds to try and figure out how to grab that hold.
Maya's making some progress on women's 1. Let's see if she can get to that number 10 and then 15 hold and get that top that this women's 1 hasn't seen.
There we go. There we go. Same thing. Smart competitors gain that 10 points before you figure out how to move on. She does only have 1:07 seconds, and so if she ends up falling, she's going to have to cruise through up to that spot very quickly again in order to have a second shot at this 15.
Ooh, what a strong move by Megan, just going up and latching that hold and keeping those shoulders engaged. That definitely hurt my shoulders a little bit just watching it.
It looks like Maya gained the 10 points as well over there on the right side of the screen. And we've got our first top of women's 2. Very cool.
The crowd really went crazy on that one. That was exciting to watch. Megan did a great job figuring out this move and getting to that finish hold. That was real impressive.
Audrey falling off that 15 point again. She's got 30 seconds. We'll see if she gives it another run. She does have to move slowly. She may want to conserve her energy for that 4th boulder problem.
Yeah, that 4th boulder problem looks really powerful and energy draining, so it might be smart for competitors to wait.
That's the first time we've seen the 15 controlled. Maya is killing it, but she's only got 11 seconds left to get to this finish hold.
She might be topping this out as time runs out. This is exciting. Great job from Maya to stay composed and get that top right before the finish.
Very cool. So over on men's one, we'll get a view of Matt Foltz. First view of Matt Foltz today over on men's one right there, brushing it off. Smart competitor. That guy's been competing for a long time. And you can see him just looking at these holds thinking, wow, that's tiny. Other competitors have been on it. There's some chalk and some skin and everything packed in there. So he's going to make sure he's getting all the friction that he can out of those holds. And we've also got Nick Milburn on men's four there, brushing it up, making sure that those super slick, fine-grained flat holds have everything that he can gain from them.
You see Daniel just campusing, kind of like Zach's beta, just campusing through, showing his pure strength and abilities here.
Yeah, and we saw him campus on men's two as well over to one of those blocks. His campus ability and his lock-off strength is just phenomenal. It's one of his huge strengths, I think.
Yeah, we might see a flash from him on this boulder.
It would be the first flash of the night on men's three for sure. Carlo's looking calm and collected. This guy is just such a strong climber. I love watching Carlo climb. The guy does bouldering, sport, trad. I mean, he actually did them all in one day for that 14er challenge.
Yeah, that was a really impressive challenge. When I heard about it, I was really shocked to see Carlo Traversi do it, or anyone do it in general. I mean, that was a really impressive feat of strength and ability overall.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a top if he can match this. That is a match, so that's going to be, I believe, a flash for Carlo Traversi on that one as well.
Yeah, it looks like he did flash that boulder. He is the only competitor to actually flash. Actually, no, it was flashed by Zach and Nick. Daniel Woods was the only one to not complete that boulder.
Also over on men's one, if you guys were unable to see it, we got a top from Matt Foltz over there. Matt's got an impressive wingspan. I do just want to point out this guy is... Matt Foltz is 6 foot, and he says his wingspan is 5 inches, which is an outrageous ape index for anybody to have.
It makes me a little mad. I actually have a negative ape index, so people with positive ape index really aggravates me a little bit. Having a +5, that's huge.
Yeah. Nick looking pretty comfortable and moving real slow on this. That hold is not great. It's big, but it's just so slopey, and you can see he's using everything he can to just stay on it. He's moving super slow.
That is new beta we have seen on this boulder. See, he gains control and see if he can get the top.
Again, Nick Milburn, ladies and gentlemen, the guy comes out with the wackiest way to get through boulders sometimes. He's such a smart technical climber that if strength can't do it for him, he finds some way to just maneuver his way unconventionally through to the finish.
Yeah, I love the turnaround fist pump to the crowd. The crowd really enjoyed that boulder and that top.
As easily as Daniel's moving through this boulder his first and second time, I'm really surprised he's having trouble with that last move. And maybe it's, again, these route setters challenging themselves to have trouble, or the route setters challenging these climbers to be an all-around climber. You watch Daniel lock off, you watch him crimp, you watch him do all this stuff, and then he gets shut down kind of on this sloper move.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued to see how he does. I don't know what his training regimen has been like this season, but this is his first comp, and so it's interesting to see him.
All right, and joining me in the booth here, Hunter's going to take a break, but I have athlete and climber Alex Fritz. Alex, how are you doing today? You were climbing in qualifiers last night and unfortunately just missed finals.
Yeah, hi John, thanks for having me. Qualifiers yesterday went pretty good. That's 2 National Cup Series in a row where I've placed 10th, only missing finals by either a couple falls or a couple points. The round was really good. The qualifiers, I think, were the best boulders that we've had in the 3 National Cup Series comps that I've went to. They really tested all the different climbing skills, volumes, jumping, technique, power, and considering how much time I get to climb and train, I felt pretty happy with my result.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, watching the qualifiers, everybody did so well, and I was really convinced that you had made it into finals because everybody was climbing well. You looked really good yesterday. Oh, man, Daniel just missing that hold. But yeah, so I was just really impressed. I'm surprised you didn't make it, but I'm glad you're up here in the booth. We're gonna get some athlete perspective from you. So, for somebody like Daniel, he chose to sit down on men's too, even though he knew that somebody else had topped it out. What's in his mind there when he's going through that strategy?
I was pretty surprised in the second boulder that he chose to step away from it as well. I think it got in his head after problem 2 when he chose to walk away. I think had he given it one more attempt, because he had, I think, almost a full minute left on number 2 when he walked away. I think had he tried it one more time and finished that climb, he probably would have topped number 3 too. Like you said earlier, it's so much mental game as much as it is physical, and when you walk away from a boulder that you know that most of the people before you have topped, then that's going to ruin the round for you.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, here we have a first look at Brooke Rabbitue, by the way. Brooke has been to every climbing competition this season as well. She placed second at the first comp at Yankin Yard, she placed third at Yankin Yard. She has been in finals every time, and she has been fighting to just make her way onto the podium every time after Yankin Yard. And she's one of those competitors, because she's been climbing for so long, that you just really can't count out of this competition. So it'd be really interesting to see Brooke, especially on this climb, work her way through it, seeing that Maya had a top as well.
Yeah, for those that don't know Brooke, she has been climbing for basically her entire life. Both her parents were professional rock climbers back in the day. Both still climb very, very hard outside. Her brother Sean was the overall title winner last season, and we haven't seen him at all yet this season, so I assume he's taking a break from comps. But Brooke has been a very seasoned competitor for a very long time, and I'm excited to see how she does.
Also, we got to see Audrey over there on women's 4 make her way up to at least the second pinch in that series. We haven't seen anybody get there yet, so it's really cool to see some progress on that front.
We see Brooke moving through the first tricky part of problem number 1. She stuck that drop down, and she's slowly moving over to hold 10.
It's just so much balance and control in that move. I love it. You're having to just slowly work those hips over until she can get her foot on. And what a smart competitor to know to use that corner of that arete and that yellow zone right there to be able to stand up. It took the other girls a little bit to figure out, but Brooke's obviously experienced. She's been climbing forever. She's been competing forever, and she knows exactly where to manipulate her body and what tricks to use in order to make her way through this boulder problem. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a top from her here.
I think what really makes the difference between a good competitor and a great competitor is being able to see things like that arete. We saw a lot of the previous girls kind of slap at it and use it to get around the corner, but she continued to use it all the way to hold 10, and being able to read a route and see those things is just as important as being the strongest climber in the category.
Yeah, Audrey's back up through that coordination move where she had to jump onto the volumes and jump out.
That looks super powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful, and what we can't see from that angle is that pinch that she was going to is actually sloping in on itself. So it's not even just about the hand strength to hold onto it in body position. I mean, they really have to squeeze the juice out of that hold.
We got Maya here, having gotten through the backwards press and facing out.
I love this mantle. They're just really laid out. They have to activate so hard to get up to this hold.
It's extremely hard to get into that press when your heel is stuck in that jug.
Well, and then the yellow hold, or the yellow hold in that panel there, the yellow panel, the one her left hand is on, is actually around a corner. You can't really see it, and so it's around a corner, which doesn't allow her optimal press in between that foot. She's really having to stay close to the wall in that move.
Audrey Miller sticking 10 points.
Yeah, those pinches are no good, and at that angle, it is outrageous. They've got 35 seconds left. It looks like Audrey is going to step away. She looks exhausted. But it looks like Megan's going to give it one more go. She's a little frustrated and knows she can do this move. She wants those points, and she is not giving up. She's got 20 seconds to get to get through this section.
And we didn't see, it was off camera, but Brooke did top number 1.
10 seconds.
Not surprising seeing the progress that she made the last time we saw her. Megan was able to get that 5, but we'll see if that 10 counted.
We can see Carlo scoping out men's 3, that big dyno. I think one of my favorite things about Carlo, I would say, is his core strength. My favorite climbing video of Bishop was seeing him do Spectre, and for those that know the climb Spectre, it's a extremely powerful move in a very steep overhang, and I've never seen someone stop their swing so solidly before in my life, and you constantly get to see Carlo do that, so I'm hoping we get to see that skill.
There you go, first try, no problem for Carlo Traversi. Yeah, he's definitely a very enjoyable climber to watch climb. He's just very fluid. He's smart. He's a very experienced climber, indoors and outdoors. The man was 2-time national champion in SCS, and I mean he's known for bouldering, but he won the sport climbing series 2 times in a row. He's just very all around and very gifted and experienced athlete. We'll see if we can get a flash here.
And off screen, we just had Austin Guyman, top number 1.
Oh. Taking a pretty good dip off that wall. Daniel seems to be struggling a little bit here in the beginning. Again, Daniel Woods is known for his outdoor climbing, also his comp experience, but recently he's been focusing on competition climbing. He is, you know, he can pull down super hard, he can campus, he can lock off, but sometimes when it comes to these tricky maneuvers where you're pressing, you're finagling, you're balancing, you're crossing under, like doing all these weird route setting tricks, you know, sometimes I think Daniel can get a little hung up.
I think what's super interesting about this round right now, and you've been seeing a lot in the last few seasons, in the last couple years in competition climbing, the theme is that the younger crowd, the kids that are still in youth, the ones that are just aging out of youth, like Brooke or Margot or Nick Milburn, Zach Gala, these guys are the ones that are on the top a lot of the time, and that's because that's what they train. You get guys like Daniel and Carlo who spend most of their time now trying to put up first descents and climb V16 outside, and then they come into a comp and it's totally different than what it was like when they were competing, and all these kids are now training these weird shoulder presses and tensiony moves and the coordination, and as you can see, Daniel, number 4 here, is struggling to figure it out, but Nick and Zach made it look easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really interesting to look through a lot of these athletes' bios and you know, see how they started rock climbing. And for a lot of the older competitors, you know, maybe they got involved in the gym, but they had mentors who took them outside and stuff like that. But a lot of these kids get, you know, their responses got started in a birthday party or on a youth team, and you'll see some of their most favorite ascents, and they're not outdoor ones. They're, you know, the black problem at youth nationals, and it's really interesting to see that outdoor culture and indoor culture kind of clash here and what it's doing to the competition scene.
Yeah, I don't know about you, John, but my hardest ascent is indoor climb.
Here we see Matt Fultz just campus his way up to that 15-point mantle press all the way up. This guy is looking good.
Yeah, he's figuring out this top section a little bit different than everyone else. That mantle press that he's doing is pretty cool, but most of those other guys did a little different.
I think what just happened there is I think his foot hit that yellow foothold, or yellow hold on the women's number 3 route. They have to be really careful, especially when routes are this close together, because if he weights any of those other footholds that are off route, he's going to get called down. And he may have just slipped off, but I saw the judge kind of talking to him over my shoulder, and it looked like he may have touched that and got called down. We'll see if we'll see how that shaped up.
If Daniel can do this next move and get to 10, I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to campus all the way to 25.
I would not be surprised. I think getting to number 10 is going to be tough for him.
Matt giving it one last burn.
31 seconds left.
Got Matt looking to finish strong on Matt's 2. Come on, Matt. Let's get behind Matt right now. Come on, finish that order. Look left, Matt's 2. Come on, Matt.
Matt's going to try and press his way up. He's got 16 seconds left to get through this climb.
There we go.
10 seconds.
What you didn't see off camera, Daniel was not able to get to that 10 spot. They called 10 seconds and he slipped right off. I don't believe Carlo topped men's 3 either, so it'll be really interesting to see how this shakes out. Again, with the reverse qualification, you know, we expect that Zach is going to be the one who has the hardest time out here. Least experienced, young guy, but he came out guns blazing, cruised through a lot of these boulder problems, and now we're seeing some of the more experienced athletes struggling. It's really cool to see that happen, especially for such a young competitor early on here.
Over on problem number 1 for the women, we got Kyra Condi easily sticking that first drop down move. Kyra's been doing the National Cup circuit as well. At the Yankin Yard, she placed 3rd. At Violet Crown, she also placed 3rd.
Yeah, she's been consistently 3rd. She went into finals and just came out at 3rd place. And the thing about Kyra is that if you follow her on Instagram, if you know anything about her, that girl is consistently training. She's always doing moonboard sessions. She's always doing pull-ups. She does weighted pull-ups. I mean, she pushes herself every time, and she is nipping at the heels of Alex Puccio and Margot Hayes, and her and Brooke Rabitou are head-to-head all the time. I would love to see Kyra really come out strong in this competition and give everybody a run for their money.
For those that know Kyra as well, know that if you're not watching her with your eyes wide open, and if you blink, you're going to miss her on the climb. So what's cool about this first boulder is it slows her down quite a bit, and she doesn't get to show off her normal speed climbing technique that she's known for.
Kyra being able to take a rest there and chalk up on those holds. This is going to help her a lot on that next number 15 hold.
Oh, we see Brooke stick 15, that crazy press, looking super chill.
Yeah, she was definitely spread out on that mantle. She is our shortest competitor at 5'1", with only Puccio right behind her at 5'2". So, you know, height it definitely plays a factor, but she's not letting it stop her on this climb.
Brooke topping out number 2, and Kyra in the background topping out number 1.
As we move over, we can see that we haven't seen these two top yet. Brooks eyeing up women's 3 there, and hopefully we'll see a coordination move here from Megan. Very cool. Seemed to stick that very casually. Seems like braids are hot this season. The new fashion headwear of climbing.
Come on, yo, let's get behind Maya on women's 3. Come on.
Maya doing everything she can to not slip off those volumes. Climb like that, it doesn't really matter how strong you are. It doesn't really matter how technical you are either. It just comes down to friction.
Body position a lot on those, staying really close to the wall, trying to get up to that number 15. But again, you know, the higher you go up on that slope, or the worse that hold's going to be. And that last lunge for that 15 hold is definitely, you know, probably low friction and really dependent on your body position and your contact strength too.
Here we see Megan quickly trying to tape up her fingers.
You gotta take off real quick.
Not sure what's going on, if she has a split tip or what's going on there.
Yeah, the unfortunate part of in the rules is if you're bleeding, you have to take your climbing time to cover it up. It's probably the last attempt for both girls.
Come on, baby. All right, let's get behind Maya. Come on. There you go.
Super close for Maya.
So close.
This is, again, just a great way to challenge everybody on everything. We're seeing this really powerful pinch climb, fully overhanging these slopers that Maya's struggling on. It's power, it's body position, balance, technique. They're really doing the best they can to just challenge all of these climbers to the best of their ability. Here we've got Matt Fultz brushing up men's 3. Matt is one of our taller competitors. He stands at about 6 feet, I believe. Yep, he is 6 foot tall. So when it comes to this dyno, he's going to be able to stand up a little taller to it and not have to put forth a lot of effort, but he also probably gets a little more swing because of his length.
In the back there, we see Ben Hanna brushing men's number 1. Ben had a good start to the season, placing 3rd at the Yankin Yard, and then he has actually been recovering from an injury, couple injuries that he's been having throughout the season, but he looked super good in qualifiers yesterday, and I think you guys are going to be pretty impressed watching him climb.
Yeah, here we have Austin Guyman on men's number 2. Austin's also another one of our 6 foot tall climbers. The height range on those climbers, it definitely varies a lot. I mean, we're going from 5'6" to 6 foot.
Matt just missing the divot on the any volume there. He overshot it a little bit.
Austin's making this look pretty easy, but we have seen climbers fall from up here, so we'll see if he can. Or I'm sorry, Austin. Did I say Austin?
Yeah, you said Austin.
Okay.
He's got to watch his foot too. His foot's on that yellow volume.
I can't tell if his foot's touching it right now. It looks like it is. He just got called down.
Carlo struggling with the bottom section of men's 4.
Ben handily grabbing that. That is awesome. This guy last night was so impressive. He was just going around crushing boulders at the qualification round. And it was really a treat to watch him climb because I haven't seen him climb all season other than in the very first Yankin Yard competition.
You may or may not have been able to make it out as it zoomed in on his hands finishing men's number 1, but he does have pink fingernails. Some of the guys were asking if he did it for a girlfriend or someone back home, but he claims he is doing it for himself.
All right, so point-wise, we have 2 climbers finished in both male and female. It looks like thus far with the finished climbers, Nick Milburn is holding out first ahead of Zach Gala, and it looks like Audrey Miller is ahead of Megan Lynch, though point-wise, we do have some competitors just ahead of those 2. So we'll take a look at scores whenever we get an opportunity. We'll bring them up on the screen as soon as they are available for you guys to take a look at. Otherwise, you can go to usaclimbing.org and check them out on the live results from your phone or your computer. And please keep sending questions and comments over to Twitter so that we can have some conversations with you guys. At USA Climbing is the handle. Reach out to us there.
For a guy like Matt, he's a pretty big dude, and so when you see him campus through the roof section of climb number 3, it makes you wonder if he's using too much energy when he gets to the top, because he definitely needs quite a bit to do that final move. And you see guys like Nick Milburn who kept their feet on and looked pretty good for that last move, but Matt is going foot loose, fancy free.
He's also very scrunched up at the top of that wall. Again, he's a tall competitor, so for somebody shorter like Zach, that move's not going to put his hips out away from the wall so much and allow him to kind of jump more straight up. For Matt, he's going to have to get really scrunched up, which is pushing him a little bit off that sloper. But again, this is kind of where, the balance comes in. If you're too short, longer moves, jump moves, those are going to be tougher for you. If you're really tall, these scrunchier moves are going to kind of balance out the field.
And the shirt comes off.
That's 1 tick mark for shirts off for the competition today. I think there's a pool going on somewhere for how many shirts come off during the comp.
Yeah, over under 3.
I'll be really excited to see if Carlo can get up to that number 10 hold again. Daniel wasn't able to, but I think if we get these guys through that move and onto that number 10 hold, it'd be really cool to see a top from these guys. So far, I think Nick is the only one to top it, and he used some pretty wacky beta getting up there.
Yeah. Neither Carlo or Daniel have figured out to go out right to the arete like Zach and Nick did.
very good point. Here we've got Austin trying to get up this thing without using his foot on that yellow hold. He's going to have to be really careful. His foot can barely brush it, but if he weights it or uses it, and that may have been a little too much for the judge, then he gets called down because that is part of the women's route.
It's another one of those things that you're talking about, like Matt Fultz in the steep and having trouble keeping his hips close to the wall because he's so big. Austin has got those long limbs, and it's pretty much impossible for him to put his foot anywhere else.
Yeah. I would not be surprised to see Kyra move handily through this thing. You know, she's an excellent competitor, and she's very flexible and knows these kind of routes. But at the same time, you know, she has had some back surgery, and it definitely stops her sometimes from kind of twisting, engaging heel hooks. So we'll see if this becomes a problem for her. She does not like that hold.
And showing some wrist pain there.
Brooke Rabitou there on women's 3, chalking up, being very smart, knowing that these slopers are not amazing. Other climbers have been on them. She's trying to get as much sweat off her hands, get as much friction on the hold as she can.
Maya just struggling to get enough momentum to do that drop down and jump back up on women's number 4. You got to have a lot of swing, and you got to use your hips super well to nail that hold.
Not sure if this is her first attempt or not, but Margot is cruising through these moves. It is Margot's first attempt through this, and she looks really comfortable. For any of you who don't know, Margot has climbed 515, and she is an incredibly strong athlete.
Margot is also the only girl this season to knock Alex Puccio off the podium. She took first at the Battle of the Bay competition, so let's see if she can do it again tonight.
Kyra opting for the piano match on that hold that's just a little bit better. Ooh. In order to get the 25 points, she does need to grab the hold with both of her hands, or at least maintain control with both hands. So even though she reached out and was able to put some pressure on that hold, she's not going to get the points for that top.
And for those that can't really tell or don't know much about route setting or holds, 25 is a small dual textured sloper. So like John said, you can touch it, but it's really hard to engage unless you shift your weight over all the way to the right using your hips.
Kyra is trying really hard to shake out and get some energy back, and she does. That was a very smart thing for her to do, was not to rush that last move, take the time to chalk up, to shake out her hands, try and get some energy so that she could make that last move. And it looks like Maya's having some trouble here on women's 4. That is not an easy coordination move.
Even if that was the first boulder of the round, that would have been pretty tough to be able to do. So it's definitely intense to have that as the last boulder.
And now we're seeing a little bit of fatigue too, so it's definitely a tough boulder to have for women's 4. It'll be really cool to see somebody like, you know, Alex Puccio come out, because Alex is known for her pinching and tower strength. And even though she may have some trouble possibly with this coordination move, I'm guessing that she may or may not have be able to do the pinches fairly well.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to struggle with that top section.
We'll see. Every now and then in these competitions, I'm very surprised at what I think will happen and what actually happens. It's, you know, it's the name of the game is just being able to execute.
Maya looking super strong now that she's made it through that first move.
I believe that's the high point so far on that boulder. Maya slipping off on that small rectangular pinch, the number 10 point there. One of the other competitors was able to reach out and touch the next pinch, but it was not control. Brooke was just inching her way up that wall. She is one of our shorter competitors, or shortest competitor in the female field there in finals. So a move like that is definitely going to be a little tougher for her, but she definitely has it in her wheelhouse to get it done.
She chose some different beta than the previous girls that got to 10 too. She started to flip her right hand to a press as she stood up instead of just trying to pull down on 10.
And sometimes that could be all the difference, you know, that little bit of beta and just who chooses to do it. And, you know, if you only have a couple of attempts, too, it's pretty ballsy to try and switch up your beta, but it's also an intelligent competitor to know to not just keep, you know, beating a dead horse with some bad beta. So Looks like she needs a little bit more swing to launch herself to the higher part of that volume.
Yeah, for a move like that, it really helps, like she just did there, to push off the wall with your feet to generate that backward swing.
She looks a little frustrated, but you know she's been such a good competitor all year. I'm sure it's not going to get her down too much. I would have liked to see Maya top that boulder, but you know, so it goes. Here's a look at some scores for you guys. Looks like we've got Nick in first so far. He has finished along with Zach Gala, Carla Traversi in third. He did not do super well on problem 4, unfortunately, and that kind of put him behind a little bit.
And for the girls, we got Brooke in first, Maya in second, and Kyra in third. You see in the background there, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Nathaniel Coleman coming out on problem number 1.
This guy has been unstoppable all season. He has taken first place in every competition. Last night in qualifiers, he did the one boulder problem that nobody else could do. He was the only one to top it. I mean, he's just been unstoppable all season. It'll be really interesting to see how he does on all of these climbs, especially considering guys like Carlo and Daniel Woods, who are both extremely experienced and strong climbers. They've had some troubles on some of these. Makes that look so easy. So casual from Nathaniel Coleman being able to finish that first boulder problem with a flash. We do have a couple flashes on that, so he's going to have to prove his worth on those later boulder problems.
We got Ben Hanna starting to move into the top section of number 2.
And Austin Guyman made that one look easy. He is one of the taller competitors, so he was able to almost touch the volume before his feet left, but he just walked his hands right up to that jug.
But then he's got the struggle with the top section up here, trying to keep his feet close.
You can see him looking for a foot up higher.
Yeah, see, as soon as he starts to pull.
Ben's looking pretty casual right now, too. I don't want to curse him, but he always looks so calm and collected on the wall.
That hold that they're on, 15, is not very good. So in order to get your foot up that high, holding on to 15, you got to be super flexible. He's looking for a different sequence while just hanging out and chalking up.
Yeah, seriously, just like casually sloughing it right now on these holds.
Most people wouldn't be able to even dead hang on that thing, and he's resting on it.
Foot slips, and Ben is going to have to try and get that on his second go. He really wanted that. You could tell by how much time he spent hanging on by one hand. He was hoping to get the flash out of that one.
Austin struggling to get back through that paddle dyno. Like you said earlier, just because you did a move once doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it again.
It's a good look at Matt Foltz right now. He's got 2 minutes to move through this section. Since Zach and Nick Milburn, we haven't seen anybody be able to stick this hold right here. So that puts Matt in the top 3, at least on this boulder.
And as you saw, he used the arete, which seems to be the key to get to the hole 10.
One of the things I heard the route setters talking about earlier was just how that hold was slowly just getting worse and worse as the chalk built up on it. So, you know, the intelligent climbers, the smart climbers are probably going to take some time to brush that hold off. Otherwise, we're going to see a lot more of what Matt just did, where earlier, you know, some of the climbers were able to cut their feet and still hang on to that thing, but as soon as Matt cut his feet, he swung out and slipped right off. So we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully one of them will be smart enough to brush it. It might make all the difference in the scores in the end.
There we got our second shirt off.
That's 2 for the evening. I believe he was a favorite for taking the shirt off as well.
Come on, let's get behind these boys. Come on, man.
Man, Matt almost making it up to that spot again.
Austin finally sticking the dyno.
When he gets it, he definitely makes it look really casual. That is a beautiful dyno from Austin. It's interesting to see Ben struggle on this. He was climbing so strong last night, and you know, some of the other climbers made it look really easy, but it's just proof to point that, you know, just because somebody's able to cruise through it doesn't mean all these guys can. And all of these competitors are incredibly strong. I mean, all of them, you know, regularly climbing competitions, regularly crush extremely hard boulder problems. There's Miss Margot Hayes getting ready for women's number 2. And the crowd's going to go wild as Alex Puccio steps out on women's 1. There's our first shot of Alex brushing off even the foothold. She knows that this is going to be a very foot-specific climb. Having to stand on those feet, balance around. She wants to make sure she's getting maximum friction on that climb.
This one's going to be a good test for her, too, because she's not known for coordination and that kind of balancing movement. So
she struggled with it a bit at the Battle of the Bay at Dogpatch Boulders in San Francisco. She struggled with it at, there you see her falling off the first attempt. She struggled with it at Violet Crown. She struggled with it last night. Coordination and run jumps are not Alex's thing this season, but she definitely excels everywhere else. So if she can do it here, she's putting herself in a good position to be able to do well throughout the rest of the comp.
And what's cool is you saw when she stuck the start move, she's actually standing up with just her thumbs on the start hold. You're creating opposition with your feet on that big foot. There's a slight angle change that makes that top section of the wall where the start hold is a little steep, and the hold isn't really grabbable, so you end up just pushing with your thumbs for balance instead of trying to pull on it like it's a crimp.
It's also cool to see, you know, all of the climbers thus far, all of the ladies thus far on women's 2 struggle with this first move. You know, watching the early climbers come out and kind of have trouble with it, you would expect some of these more experienced climbers to be able to move through this section a little more handily, but it's not easy, and it definitely puts you in a weird body position. You can't quite see the hold you're going to. It's definitely giving everybody, Margot helping her leg lift up there a little bit in that women's 2. That was funny.
Alex finally sticks the drop down move. She's moving over to try to grab the 10-point hold.
One of the things I love is watching these climbers assess the climb while they're on it. Alex is doing something really interesting here that we haven't seen from any of the other climbers. She was definitely trying to assess whether she could get out to the hold in that yellow panel first before going up. She ended up just going straight up and maintaining that 10. No tops yet from Kyra or Brooke Rabitou on those climbs.
Alex is fighting to stay on. That looks like an uncomfortable position for her to be in.
Alex is looking really comfortable right here. Kind of posted up on that hold, Frogger style. This is new beta we haven't seen from anybody yet that Margot's trying on women's 2. We'll see if this works out for her. I wouldn't have been surprised if that heel didn't slip, because she's an incredibly strong and flexible climber, and if anybody could have made that move work, I bet Margot could have.
Yeah, she's got time. She definitely can do it that way.
We'll see if she'll try that beta again. You know, like we talked about, the smart climber might try and switch her beta up to something a little more conventional or a little less conventional to try and make it happen.
And we can see Brooke on women's number 4, where she's, you know, one of the shortest climber, or the shortest climber in the category. She's got to generate so much more momentum from that swing, where she's tapping her feet on both the front and back swing in order to get all the way over there.
Kyra moving quickly through this section, as is per her technique usually. She is just such a treat to watch sometimes when she's just like cruising through boulder problems and other people are moving super slow, and it just works super well for her.
Yeah, points for 15 right there.
Ooh. It was smart of her to control that 15. You saw her, she paused on it and made sure to hold it for the full control before she moved, because she knew she had potential to slip off of that climb.
There's slightly different beta. The first time that we've seen a lady actually just hold the swing coming out of the dihedral in women's number 2 instead of trying to jump all the way around.
She's definitely got the hand strength to do that, as we saw. She was able to just campus through. The hold you can't see under there is a very small finger jag that's meant to be able to like help propel you around the corner, but not necessarily be able to hang on it. But Margot's just got that super strength. Here she's trying the beta that we've seen before and not opting to go the way that she did last time.
Seems to be the correct beta. Whoa, that wasn't
Man.
even a hold.
She just twisted herself up right there. That was impressive.
Quick look at the clock.
She's got 10 seconds to get to this finish hold.
She tops it.
She does it with 2 seconds left. Very happy. Celebrating on her drop down. All right, Alex, thanks so much, man, for stopping in. We're going to get Hunter back over here. I really appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, Hunter, you had some time to walk around and take a look and sit down without having to think too much. What do you think of the comp so far?
It's been really exciting. I've talked to a few of the fans. They're stoked. They're having a great time. It's a good show, and really psyched to see these last few competitors, see what they can do. Alex looking really strong. Nathaniel's looking strong, and then she just saw Margaret Hayes just eking out that top in the last few seconds. That was really exciting, and the crowd went wild on that one.
Yeah, you know, it's been really cool to watch, especially the men, because Zach coming out so strong in the beginning, you're always worried that we're going to end up with a whole bunch of flashes early on, but it's actually been decent separation throughout this. And men's 2 and men's 3 have been giving some of the competitors you wouldn't expect a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I bet the root setters were a little worried at the start, as Nick and Zach both came out really, really strong, and it looked like it might have been an all competitors stopping all 4 boulders. But just like most comps, you can never count anyone out, and you can never expect anything. There's a lot of factors that go into all these boulders and these competitors, mental game, their strength, what they ate last night, like everything comes into play. So it's really exciting to watch as Nathaniel goes up trying to get this number 25 finish hold.
He just got called down by the judge for the same issue that we've been seeing with these taller competitors. But, you know, Nathaniel, as we've seen in the past, he's an exceedingly capable climber. He's super smart, and he's very body aware. I would not be surprised if he was able to keep his foot in on that. I think you kind of saw it happen. You know, his foot touched the hold, and you watched him kind of flex his foot in real quick right before he was called down. He knows to avoid that hold, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to cruise past it this next go.
Yeah, and unfortunately right now I had the over of shirts off, so I need a few more competitors to take the shirt off so I can win this bet.
So, interestingly enough, Nick Milburn, who did really, really well early on here, he was 6th place in Yanking Yard, and then he took 5th place in both Battle of the Bay and Violet Crown. So he's been in finals throughout this entire series, but he's always been falling in that second half. And now we just saw him come out and crush, and he's currently sitting in a very comfortable 1st place. Zach Gallo, one of the other competitors who's finished, is 5 points behind him, and everybody else thus far have not been able to do what Nick Milburn has done this competition. So he may be the competitor to beat Nathaniel Coleman. We'll have to see how this shakes out. That's really the big question of the night tonight, is who can beat Nathaniel Coleman.
Yeah, it's. I was hoping Ben would be able to do really well, but he struggled on men's 2 a little bit. It was a crucial non-top from him, so we'll see if he can get his act together and finish this boulder and men's 4, because that's going to come crucial for him to try to get on this podium.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it's looking close, more and more like Nick Milburn is going to be the guy to do it, if anybody, because, you know, like you just said, we've had Ben struggling on men's 2. Ben's looking like he's struggling a little bit on men's 3. Even Austin Guyman, who's doing fairly well, he didn't do men's 3. He's struggling on men's 4. And so right now it's looking like if anybody's going to unseat Nathaniel Coleman, it's going to be Nick Milburn.
Yeah, and as you can notice, like we mentioned before, Zach Gallo just came out and he crushed. He's sitting pretty favored in 2nd right now, with Ben and Nathaniel, a chance to knock him off that podium spot. But it'd be real exciting to see how this comp shapes out.
And there's a top from Nathaniel Coleman. You saw him change his body position, change his beta, just to avoid that sloper, and he was able to top that out. Hopefully we see a top here from Ben Hanna. He's definitely one of the guys who I think can make the top of this.
Yeah, just got a foot cup. Yeah, it looks like the crux on that 2nd boulder for men's was that left or that right foot not hitting that yellow hole. A lot of competitors got called off for that. I know probably in the minds of the root setters there too.
Definitely.
And as mentioned before, this number 10 hold is really slopey. I know it looks like a hold that most of y'all might have in the gym, but this is a new hold from eGrips. It's actually sloping main dish, not just your normal main dish. So there's no lip on that. It's just a sloper, and it's really gross.
You can kind of see Austin holding his back as he came off the last one of those. This press move right here, you're really having to just like really activate your lower back, and doing it over and over again is definitely a taxing. Thankfully, it's the fourth one. That was 10 seconds. Austin decided he wasn't going to be able to get through that.
Yeah, and it's definitely a little bit harder to fit into that box there for taller competitors like Austin. So him kind of squeeze up in it, that did play a lot more factors on his back compared to someone like Zach, who's a little bit shorter and be able to fit better.
So we're slowly nearing the end of this competition. We got a lot more climbing left, but nobody will be on women's 1 or men's 1 anymore. We've got Alex moving on to women's 2. Here we've got Kyra about to do the coordination jump move on women's 4. She's a very experienced competitor, as we've said, trains a lot. She's definitely, nipping at Alex and Margot and these other competitors, but I mean, she's very experienced. I hope that she's able to move through this, and we'll see see some progression on this boulder.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see some of these experienced competitors take the first minute to reassess the boulder, reassess beta, clean up those holds. It definitely bodes well into a strategy here. So this is not just pull hard and complete the boulder. There is a lot of technique and strategy into these comps.
It was really fun to watch Margot Hayes last night during the qualification round. She definitely kind of lone sharked it. A lot of these, or lone wolfed it. Lone sharks are different.
Yeah, definitely lone wolf.
Yeah, she was lone wolfing it. She, a lot of these competitors go around, talk about beta together, climb these things, and Margot was pretty much climbing on her own. She had different strategies. She was approaching boulder problems at different times, doing different ones at different time. So she's a smart climber, and we saw that right here on this women's number 3, where she was assessing the boulder before she even got on.
Yeah, and you see Kyra struggling a little bit to figure out this coordination move. These moves are not easy. These competitors are strong athletes, as Kyra just sticks a move. Let's see if we can get a top out of men's or women's 4.
Man, Kyra is just cruising through those holds. You would not be surprised at how bad that pinch is before the 10, and she's making it look so easy.
Yeah, and there's these little screw-on jibs on these that pinch that she's right hands on. She's pulling on. Let's see if we can get a top.
Yes.
So strong. That was solid.
That is the first top we've seen for women's 4, putting Kyra in a comfortable position. We have not yet seen a top on women's 3. We have seen some people get to 15. Kyra got that control. Kyra got the top of women's 4. Kyra got to the top of women's 2.
Yeah, she's looking really, really solid in this comp, and the crowd went absolutely crazy when she got that. That finish hold is just a straight pinch, and I actually think it's flipped upside down a little bit, so the good edge is on the bottom, so you're really having to pinch that hold. It's not good, and that was a strong performance.
And again, if these competitors choose to, they can see the scoreboard. They can see where they're sitting, and the way Kyra reacted, she knew that she was doing really well by finishing that climb.
Yeah, it looks like she might have called Brooke. Brooke is right now sitting at first place for women, so maybe that top from Kyra has put her in first place.
Ooh. There's a control from Margot on that 15. That's going to put her in the same realm as the competitors who were able to make it up that far. Alex finally making her way through this roof.
Yeah, this women competition is getting really exciting. It's coming down to those last few, as Alex just looks pretty happy to finish that hold and wait to see the crowd. It was really good performance from her.
You can see her confidence getting in that position too, because it's definitely a little risky to turn towards the crowd and do anything before you have matched. Most climbers would not want to risk it. They'd want to match the hold and then turn around and address the crowd or drop down or fist pump or whatever. But I mean, Alex is just such a confident climber. She knew that she had that finish.
Yeah, definitely when her confidence is high, you can tell she's focused, she's engaged, and she crushes. For her, it's a mental game. If she can get over that, she crushes boulders, and it's really exciting to watch.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would probably argue that she's one of, if not the strongest competitors or climbers out there. Strength-wise, I mean, Puccio is very, very strong, and we've got, Margot Hayes here, who's put down 2 515s, I believe. I mean, yeah. She's just like, she's also the upper echelon of sport climbing for women right now. So we're seeing two of the strongest climbers in the world. But if you're gauging on like raw power, Puccio's got it, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely what she's known for those strong, powerful, just grab a hold and just crush it. And that's what root setters have to keep in mind. There's not much holds out there that Alex can't grab and crush, so you have to get a little creative as a root setter to challenge her a little bit and hopefully get her to try a little bit hard.
Man, Margot was trying really hard to flip that right hand around on the 10 hold to try and get herself in a better position. Doesn't look like we're going to see a top from Margot, which means that if Alex can top that climb, that's going to put her leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. So hopefully we'll see a top from Alex there. If not, the competition is even stiffer.
Yeah, it looks like Kyra Condi did take over first place. She's sitting well ahead of Brooke Rabitou, so we'll see how Megan and Alex, or Margot and Alex, do to maybe knock Brooke off that podium spot.
And we've got 6 climbers who have all finished in the men's category right now, and Nick Milburn is still sitting in first place, Zach Gala in second, Matt Foltz in third, Carlo, Daniel, and Austin have all finished. So that's the standings as it stands right now.
Ooh. Nathaniel looked really solid at first on that little dyno, but kind of fell off trying to grab that cheetah jug there. And I'm not sure if y'all can notice that yellow and dark gray panel there is overhung, so that's sloper Soil Any there is in the overhung section, so it's not just a vert wall. There's not a lot of vert terrain here, so good job by the route setters for setting up some good slabby vert problems.
I really love seeing how these climbers approach this. You know, Ben kind of got in that position and was like, oh no, I don't think that's going to be it, so he's backed out of it, and thankfully he was able to kind of try some different beta here. He's swapped his feet a little bit, he's moved his hands around, and he's really trying to assess how to get up to that next hold.
Yeah, I always enjoy seeing Ben compete. He always has unique style with the painting fingernails and the little studs or things in his ears. It's always exciting to see him come out and just be creative with his appearance too. So he's an exciting competitor to watch, and he's figuring out this boulder by grabbing that red, as we saw Zach and Nick and all them do.
So Nathaniel Coleman, again, is one of those taller competitors. We've seen that's a struggle to get to this finish hold for a lot of those guys, but in the past, Nathaniel's been able to make these finish moves where other people have not. And there we go.
Yeah.
Second attempt.
Second climber to actually top this boulder. Only him and Zach were able to top this boulder, so that sets Nathaniel in really good position going into this last boulder for him.
Although I do believe that Nick Milburn flashed the first two, where Nathaniel was not able to flash the second problem due to a technical where his foot hit that yellow hold. So even though he was able to top that climb, when Nick only got to the 15 point after a couple attempts, you know, that's going to put them kind of neck and neck, and really between Nick and Nathaniel, it's going to come down to this last boulder problem and whether Nathaniel's going to be able to figure out how to get to the top of it.
Yeah, it's going to come down to an exciting finish. I know that's what the crowd wants. They want an exciting finish here in this comp, and it'll be a great story ending for this series to finish out with a tight last-minute crucial top to win the boulder. So it's going to be exciting. As you see Ben trying to figure it out, skipping hold number 5 and going straight for that sloper. That was impressive.
Yeah, it's always risky to try and skip a point score. He already had it from before, but you know it's risky because that may be a crucial hold.
Just campus through. Really impressive. Oh what a bop! See if he can match it.
Absolutely. That's a very happy Ben Hanna right there, guys.
He was really excited for that. Someone just threw his shirt at him.
I don't know if that was a put a shirt on or like you're so cool I have to throw something at you, but that was a very impressive finish. We watched many climbers, including Matt Foltz, fall off that number 10 hold when he was campusing, and Ben Hanna was able to not only hang on to it, but campus bump to the finish hold.
Yeah, that was real impressive. That's the second top. Both Daniel and Carlos struggled really hard, and the rest of the competitors struggled really hard with that boulder. And so that's the second top of this boulder. That's an exciting finish, and it's going to be an exciting last round.
Yeah, he was unable to finish men's 2, so it'll be or men's 3. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where that lands Ben in the lineup. You know, I mean, it could put him in 3rd place, it could put him in 5th place the way this comp has been going. So
yeah, with Zach topping 3 of the boulders, it's going to be real interesting to see where if Ben was able to knock him off. Doesn't look like he was able to, only topping 2 of the boulders, which is huge for Zach to take a podium here.
Taking a look at those scores right there, it looks like that might put Ben ahead of Matt Foltz, which would put him currently in 4th place. So we'll see how that shapes out once those update. Right now, Kyra's sitting in 1st place ahead of Brooke Rabitou. That's very exciting. We've got Margot and Alex both still waiting to do their 3rd and 4th climbs for Alex, 4th climb for Margot. So, I mean, you know, like we said, Margot's beaten Alex before. She's an incredibly competent climber. Alex has won 2 of the 4 competitions, 2 of the 4 competitions, and she's favored to win here. So we'll see how this shakes out, you guys. It's getting really exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's almost crucial for Margot to get a top on this boulder. They're both looking at 2 tops right now with Alex on women's 3. I think women's 3 could suit Alex really well. I think she can pull on that number 15 hold, which is a curved sloper. But as we all know, my predictions can be wrong, so we'll see.
The other interesting thing here, too, talking about experience, you know, those flat hold slopers there on the left that Alex is about to get on, those only came into the U.S. market, I believe, last year. So, you know, Alex climbing through Europe, climbing in the World Cup, doing a lot of these international comps and these pro level comps. She's had more experience on those than any of these other competitors. Maybe Margot and Kyra through the youth circuit and youth worlds and stuff like that. But Alex by far has the most experience on these holds, and we know that she can climb just about anything.
Both of them are looking really solid at the beginning of this boulder. Alex just kind of camping through and just hanging one arm. Margot found this knee bar. See her sport climbing roots coming out here, chalking up with the knee bar.
Alex definitely reached up and tried to get control on that 15. She looked controlled. I don't know if the judge gave it to her or not, but she did fall trying to catch the good part of that.
Margot looking really strong here. You see her little try hard face trying to get to this last pinch. Let's see if she can get a flash here. Oh, she almost found that knee bar, which was new beta. I don't know if the route setters had that in mind, but she almost got in that knee bar to grab that last hold.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Again, here we see this diversification of talents, abilities, strengths. You know, Margot is obviously an incredibly strong, smart athlete. She's flexible, and she can crimp on just about anything. But, you know, you get her on something like these big, wide, powerful pinches, and we saw Kyra be able to float through some of them. We're expecting Puccio to cruise through, though. That's to be determined. It's very cool to see these athletes who are all incredibly strong and talented be challenged by variations in their climbing ability.
I know the route setters have the tinted beta in mind, but I'm always excited to see the athletes come up with their own creative beta through these problems. As you saw Margot do that, and let's see if Alex can get to this 15 hold. The crowd's really cheering her on here.
That hold has to be getting a little schmarmy too. It's been held on by a lot of people. Again, it's fine grain. The texture is not amazing. I mean, unless that thing gets a really good brushing. And also the other thing to factor in too is the body heat and the lights in this building. I mean, it's pretty chilly here in Birmingham, but with the lights and everything, it'll slowly start getting warmer, and so those holds won't be the same holds that the early competitors climbed on.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge for the latter competitors to come out and climb on these holds that you see all these other competitors, the 7 other competitors in front of them, be able to climb on. So it's a little challenge for the end competitors, but they're definitely the stronger coming into this comp, placing in higher end qualifiers. So it's a good challenge for them to try to overcome.
Yeah, and also, like factoring in, especially on this move where the ladies seem to be having trouble getting up to that 15, you've always got to factor in a little bit of height there too. And, Puccio is 5'2", Margot's 5'6", but Puccio also has a +8 index, which helps her. Hey, that's your 3rd shirt off. There you go.
Oh, looks like I win a bet. Someone owes me a burrito.
All right, Margot's going to try and make up some lost time. She's got a minute left, so if she can't make this happen now, she's going to have to get on fast.
Yeah, it was a bold strategy from her for resting. This boulder is really powerful. She did really well her first attempt, so it's a bold strategy for her wasting that time to rest.
She's moving a little slower right now. It's I think, smart. Last time it seemed like she slipped off, so she's really, she was really hoping that to move a little more controlled on this.
You see her look at the clock, see how much time left for this boulder. If Alex tops this puts a lot of pressure on for the finish.
It'll be really interesting to see. I'm sure the judge is going to give her that 15 if I had to guess, just because she did touch it with control and come back to control. But, you know, she definitely fell off the next move. So that if she got that 15, that's going to be those extra 5 points. If the judge doesn't give it to her for whatever reason because of the judgment call, then she may not have it. Margot is not giving up. She's only got 10 seconds left, and she's putting on a good show for everybody here.
She has to fly through this boulder. She has any chance of topping it. I doubt she'll have the chance, but it's a cool show to put on for the crowd here.
Good on you for Margot Hayes right there, giving it her all, giving everybody a good show, coming off with a smile.
Definitely a crowd favorite here from the locals, so they were really excited to see her give her all in the last minute effort just to please the crowd.
All right, this is going to be our last male competitor on the wall right now, Nathaniel Coleman, who's been running the show all season, who was able to top the first boulder problem handily, who had trouble on the second one but was able to top it, who was not able to top the third boulder, or no, he did top the third boulder problem, I'm sorry. I mean, this is the running right now for who's going to take first place. Nick Milburn is still sitting in first place. Nathaniel Coleman currently in fourth before this boulder problem. So, I mean, all he has to do is get a top here, and depending on how many attempts it's going to take him, he has a shot at the first place and getting those 100 points, moving closer to overall season champion.
Yeah, it looks like he needs to get to at least a 15-point hold to secure first place, but if he can reach that number 10 hold, he will definitely seek a podium. It was really interesting to watch Nathaniel yesterday compete. Like I said, he kind of hung out by himself, just kind of hang out, just cheered on other competitors. I remember there was one boulder, he went up and brushed for another competitor. Just a real overall good sport. So it's great to see him out here competing. And he is rocking the braids as well, so it must be a fashion statement.
I'm telling you.
He's looking really solid through this boulder.
2018, year of the braids.
It looks like I need to grow my hair out again. As you can see, that sloper is not good. Nathaniel has done well on slopers prior, and he slipped off of that with that foot cut. It's not a good hold. So it's going to be real interesting to see if he can get a top. He has plenty of time, so maybe he's going to take a second rest and regroup before trying again.
Yeah, I would love to see him pick up that brush and scrub that thing off. I think it would make all the difference for Nathaniel right now. I know it takes extra time, but it would really, it'd probably help him a lot in the long run. But, I mean, we also saw Ben Hanna just campus his way through it, so, you know, there we go.
Yeah, it looks like he might have heard you up here.
So again, like, Nathaniel's sitting pretty for the overall championship. I mean, he still needs to go to Open Nationals, and there's 4 shirts off. Oh my God! But he still needs to go to Open Nationals. You know, he could still be caught technically. So he still has to try here. He still has to focus. He still has to pay attention if he wants to win. There is a cash purse for all of these climbing competitions. He's been doing fairly well, but you know, when cash is involved, you can always do better.
Oh yeah, and I mean, Nathaniel's just a competitor. He wants to compete and he wants to do well, and wants to put on a good show for these crowds. So we'll see if he can get a top here as he controls that number 10 hold. Skipping number 15. Wow.
That is so risky to do when he has not secured the 15 before. But, I mean, he knew that hold was good, and he was not going to risk falling off the 15.
I think that puts him pretty in favor to win this comp. That was real exciting. Great finish from Nathaniel. And, again, just to skip that number 15 hold, that was a bold move by Nathaniel.
So it looks like, if our math is correct, Nathaniel's going to be taking over that first place spot, putting Nick in second and Zach in third. We'll wait for the final results for sure. Kyra Condi's still sitting in first place with Margot in second.
Wow, Margot pull out second. She pushed Brooke off the podium.
It looked like she was unable to secure that last hold on the women's 4, Margot, and that was all the difference. Here we've got scores up for you guys to take a look at. You can see that Kyra Condi is about 10 points ahead, actually. Alex, 64.7 points, which means that she needs to get at least, well, she needs a top here.
Yeah, she's going to need a top if she wants to pull out this victory. So it's going to be exciting to see if Kyra can finish. But it looks like Kyra has broken her streak of third place finishes. I bet she's going to be excited about that. And you see Nathaniel almost topping every boulder flash attempt, falling off only 3 times this comp. That was a really impressive show by him. Finished with 99.7 points. That was a really exciting comp and a really exciting performance from Nathaniel.
So a question here from Jeremy Anderson is how many of these competitors also do top rope climbing or speed climbing and will possibly compete in the Olympics? That's a great question. I mean, Margot Hayes, I believe she got 3rd this year at Youth Worlds for overall. So Margot does speed, she does ropes, she does bouldering. Puccio hasn't competed in ropes in who knows how long. You know, Kyra, I know, took 3rd for speed, I believe, either at Nationals or Worlds. I'd have to check the stats on that. But a lot of these youth competitors especially compete in all of the disciplines. And, I mean, they're fodder for Olympic climbing. You know, they will be the generation that's going to the Olympics. It won't be Puccio. You know, it won't be Carlo Traversi or Daniel Woods. It'll be these youth competitors coming up and making it to the Olympics and being the ones to represent the United States on the global scale.
Yeah, with the new Olympic format being released, a lot of these competitors are starting to cross over. So I'm pretty sure most of the competitors competing, I know Zach Gala, he is a huge rope climber. He's done well. He went to Youth Worlds to compete in rope climbing, and he has been really working hard on speed. He has fallen in love with speed climbing, and he's psyched on speed climbing, so he's working hard on his speed climbing.
So this is different than a run and jump necessarily, but we have seen Alex struggle with some of these coordination moves. And while I don't think that this will stump her, in the long run, it'll definitely be a challenge. There we go.
My prediction was that she tops it once she stuck this move, so we'll see how she turns out. She's looking really strong on these holds, just grabbing them and pinching the crap out of them.
Yeah, you can
really
see her
impressive.
just squeezing the juice out of those
Yeah.
holds for sure. Looking very comfortable on 15 here.
Oh,
Wow, man.
What a huge top from Alex Puccio. The crowd goes wild. That was impressive.
Yeah, that was second go on that one. We'll see how that affects the scores in just a minute, but it was very impressive, and no doubt Alex crushed that boulder problem.
Yeah, you can tell she's psyched. The crowd was psyched. It was a great performance on that boulder. She didn't even finish that top hold at first. She open hand that finish hold, which is not that good. And then she was able to get it. But you saw she had a little bit different beta than Margot, and that might have been crucial. Margot trying to get in that knee bar when she probably should have just heel hooked.
Yeah. You know, these athletes, you can see them. You can see them talking, they're excited, they're smiling. You know, this is the part of climbing that I love, is these athletes, again, like I said earlier, they're not necessarily competing against each other. There's no animosity. They're out there just doing the absolute best, and they know that when one of them does better, you know, that just means that they've got to try harder. All of these competitors are in competition with themselves, and everybody's just trying to be the best competitor that they can be from competition to competition.
Yeah, it's very unique to, I think, our sport of climbing, to see competitors just kind of cheer each other on and just talk and communicate. But that was a crazy finish. Alex Puccio pulled it out by 0.1
Yeah,
to beat Kyra Condi.
That is outrageous, especially because last year at this climbing competition, Alex Puccio took first place with Kyra Condi in second, and literally the score difference between them was 0.2. So
Wow.
what we saw tonight was pretty much a replay of last night, and Kyra fought her way through, did her absolute best, came in second, which is her best standing this season. She's going to see a silver podium tonight, and I'm sure she's not disappointed disappointed, even though a gold probably would have felt real good.
Yeah, it was a real exciting finish for the women. And then, Margot coming in, she was the favorite at the top. Alex taking the third place in Podium. And then as you saw, Nathaniel took first place pretty easily. But the story is, I think Nicholas Milburn and Zach Gollis both taking the podium with Nathaniel.
Yeah, it was really great to see Zach just like, at least for me and for a lot of, I'm sure, the viewers at home, Zach just come out of nowhere. I mean, unless you're privy to knowing who Zach Gala is, you would not have guessed that this competitor who's in this pro comp, maybe for his first time, a youth competitor, put on the stage like this. He was challenged to step up to the plate with some of the best, and early on, he came out and just dominated. And then to see Nick also come through and just dominate when he's been in 5th and 6th place the whole time has been fantastic. And that just goes to show that just because they haven't done well in the past, or just because they're new, doesn't mean they can't come out and on any given day just step up to the plate and do something that climbers like Carlo Traversi or Daniel Woods was doing.
Yeah, both Nick and Zach qualified last in the male division. They just came out first, and they didn't have the privilege of seeing how everyone else did. They just had to come out and really compete against themselves and put up a good score first. And so I'm pretty sure everyone's going to know who Zach Gala is. And so it's really exciting to be from the Southeast point to see both of them who are representing the Southeast placing the podium in this comp. And it's going to be an exciting future to watch as Zach's still young and Nick is both young, and Nathaniel's even still young. They'll be competing for years to come. So it's going to be exciting to see those three and coming up in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one thing that's really interesting about the way this all shaped up is, the rules state that control on a hold gets you the points, and we saw Puccio reach up, gain control, smart competitor. She knows the rules. She knows how to game the system. We saw that a couple times on women's 2, the competitors touching 10 with the left hand, coming back, crossing, and then using the number 10 hold on women's 2. Puccio knew the rules. She knew that she could gain the 15 points on women's 3 without actually getting to the part of the hold that was usable in order to move past it. And honestly, that made all the difference. If she didn't get the points for that, Kyra would have taken first place, but because of that technicality in the rule, she was able to gain the 15 points on women's 3 and able to get the extra points that she needed to beat Kyra.
Yeah, which is a little different from a sport climbing perspective. Usable surface is what is required to maintain control and maintain points, but here in bouldering, you don't have to use usable surface, which comes in handy. And all these competitors should, from the youth circuit, showed really great poise and smart as they were able to do, as he said, grabbing holds, touching holds, and switching and grabbing holds. So it's really exciting to see all these youth competitors show out and do a really good job in their first really big comp.
Definitely. And right now, just in case you guys are wondering, stay tuned. We're going to be doing awards here in just a little bit. We've got a 20-minute appeals window where any competitors who want to appeal a judge ruling, want to appeal a score, anything like that, have the opportunity to, and then it would get assessed, and they would see if there would be any changes to the final lineup of competitors. So while we've got those 20 minutes, bear with us. We're going to try and keep you guys entertained and informed, but that's what we're waiting for, and then we're going to be doing awards. I definitely want to give a huge shout out to the route setting team. They absolutely crushed it at qualifiers last night. I think it was one of the best qualifying rounds that I've seen in a while because of the diverse boulder selections, the diversity of ability that these climbers had to use, and then also the accessibility, the aesthetics. Everything was great. Jeremy Harden was the chief for this competition, and he did a great job directing his route setting staff. Cody Grodsky, Blake Green, Jonathan Gallagher, and Brandon Travis were part of the route setting crew. And a huge shout out to Jonathan Gallagher, who's a trooper because he did sustain a knee injury. He's not sure how serious it is, but the poor guy got put in a leg brace, and he's on crutches, but he's still stuck around for the end of setting, helping out where he could verbally or whatever, and he was back here all day today. So kudos to Jonathan for being a champ.
Yeah, it was a great job by these route setters. All of them except for the chief are high point route setters, so it's really exciting for them to get to be able to work this event in their home area. And Jeremy, who is from Virginia area, it was really cool for him to come down and shoot this event. And anyone who's been around the bouldering knows that Jeremy is a great chief and great bouldering route setter. So it was really cool to see him and all these guys put on a great comp. I know a lot of competitors talked to me and they told me it was one of the top qualifier round, and I haven't talked to any of them about this final round, but I'm sure that they'll say the same. That it was a really great setting and really great comp.
And there's a view right there of Nathaniel Coleman talking to American Ninja Warrior Isaac Caldiero, who's been living down here in the South. He competed yesterday as well, and unfortunately just missed it by a bit. He got 11th place in qualifiers, so if the stars were different, we would have seen Isaac out here crushing things. But yeah, it was great to see all the competitors come out. One thing to note for anybody who's interested in the next leg of this is the last round of the Open National Series, but up next is the Open National Championships, and this is where we will crown the national champion. We will crown the series overall champion, and that's going to happen on February 2nd and 3rd in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, if you have competed in one of these National Series comps, you may be wondering what the next step is if you're able to go on to compete at the Open Nationals. This is the first year where there's going to be essentially a qualification, because the USA Climbing recognized that last season there was a huge issue with allowing anybody to just qualify, because we had competitors in isolation for far too long, and it's just straining on the staff. It's straining on the people who have to be in isolation for 10, 11 hours. And so this year there's a qualification. They've made a rule not allowing isolation to anybody to be in isolation for longer than 8 hours, which puts a cap on how many climbers can be allowed. So the way it works is that invitations are going to go out for the registration process for Bouldering Open Nationals this week. And there are 4 tiers for who is eligible. There's the champions for World Pan Am's National Open Bouldering. And then there's the nationally ranked from each gender from this season's series, which is the top 30 or the nationally ranked in points. After that, there's the 2017 U.S. Citizen semifinalists. And then if you have competed if there are still spaces available, if you have competed in any of the National Series Cups, they will open it up at in the second round for competitors to first come, first serve register for nationals. So for the ladies, that means actually based on the numbers that they've seen for the women, anybody who falls into the first 3 categories or has competed in one of this season's National Series Cup will be able to register. There's enough spaces open for those all those women to register. For the men, again, it's going to first fall on, or the invitations will first go out for the champions. Hold on just a second, let me just get this right. I want to say it clearly. It will go out for the champions from World's Pan Am National Open Bouldering from last year. The ones who competed in semis last year or did at least one of the National Series this year. So stay tuned for the invites next week for those in the first 3 tiers. And then once the second round comes out, if you have competed in one of the Series Cups from this season, then that registration will be open to you.
Yeah, shout out to USA Climbing for listening to everyone's concerns and everyone's critiques about how the comps have been going, and for them to adapt and to set up a really good system here. As you can see, all the climbers are kind of mingling with the fans. I know they're really psyched here in Birmingham. Birmingham is not really known for rock climbing, and this area is pretty new to rock climbing, so it's really cool for these guys who are looking up to these athletes to be able to mingle with them. I know they're all really psyched to get autographs and take photos and to talk to these competitors. It was a great event. I was really psyched on it. And as we wait around to see if there's any more appeals, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, anybody in the climbing community knows that the climbing community is small. You know, you could be out at the crag and run into just about any competitor, climber of any caliber. You make friends with people from all the way across the United States. And, you know, something like this where people tour around, all these people get really close. And you can tell that, you know, everybody kind of just gets so used to seeing each other. It's really a fun community oriented event, and whether you love climbing competitions or not, I think it's a great way for all these people to kind of come together and just make the connections and see old friends and stuff like that. So I love seeing these climbing competitions and watching all these people mingle afterwards as well.
Yeah, maybe a little biased here, but it is the best sport out there, and one of the reasons is this community, like you mentioned, and just these professional athletes, just how awesome they are, and to take their time. So not much longer, and we'll be able to get you the podiums and the awards here in a second.
I'm really excited for all of you at home to see the podiums they've got set up. It's really unique and not standard to how the podiums are. We'll get to that in just a moment as soon as this appeals window is done. Interesting to see how Carlo and Daniel fared in the long run. I mean, you know, Carlo has been competing throughout this entire series and doing really well. And today, you know, it just kind of got away from him, which proves that just because you do well a lot of other times doesn't mean that, you know, you're going to do well every time.
Yeah, y'all can get a look there at the podiums. The route setters kind of got creative here, and the crew here got creative with these podiums. But yeah, I mean, the competitions, it's evolving, it's changing. It doesn't necessarily mean the ones who can pull the hardest are going to win. But it also means, since it's just different days as the qualifiers, it's just all about like who comes out on top and like who comes out focused to win these competitions. So no matter what time, what place you come into finals, you always has a chance to come out on top. So it's really exciting to see. It's really exciting to see the close fight there with the women's and even the men's coming down to that last boulder. Unfortunately, no one was able to top Nathaniel, but he did get a little run there, and both Alex Puccio too also had a little pressure on her. So that was really exciting to see, and I'm really psyched to see what happens in the cups, in the actual national cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the thing is that you can win the Open National Championship and not be overall winner. So, you know, I mean, right now Nathaniel Coleman's sitting pretty. Alex is doing fairly well as well, coming out first in this. So, you know, they're looking good, but it doesn't guarantee that they're going to win it. However, there's a chance that they will. I mean, Nathaniel Coleman, as we've said, has been pretty unstoppable. Nicholas Milburn gave it his best effort today, and honestly, he was really close. There was definitely a question early on whether he was going to take it from him, but Nathaniel came through with a score of 99.7 out of 100, so he essentially took 3 attempts out of this competition, and one of them was due to a technical. I mean, the guy's a beast. He almost had a perfect score today, which is just unheard of for a lot of these climbers.
Yeah, and for the route setters to at least see a top on at least one of these boulders is huge. I know as a route setter perspective, you always want to see at least one top from these boulders, but not all of them getting topped. And as it started out, it kind of looked like the males are all going to top boulders. But as the nature of competition goes, it kind of fed out beautifully, and we didn't have any ties between any of the competitors in both male and female, which is huge. And it kind of makes things pretty clear going forward in the national ranking series.
Just a couple more minutes here before we get awards kicked off. Everybody, you can tell, is getting a little antsy. Huge shout out to High Point for putting this on. This it's not easy to put on these large events, but their staff has been scrambling all week to get it done, and I've only been here for a couple days getting ready for this competition, but it's been amazing to see how everybody has been working together and everybody checking on everybody to make sure that nobody's falling behind, nobody's too stressed, and it's been an excellent experience being out here at High Point, and it's great to see the passion that they're putting in. It obviously shows when it comes to the quality of the competition in the long run.
Yeah, and this is our second time hosting this event, so we're real excited. We're the only event this side of the Mississippi. The next closest competition, we're thousands of miles away in Texas. So it was real awesome for us to get this second shot at it, and we're hoping possibly for a third shot next year. I know the fans and the crowd is just going to keep getting more psyched for these comps, and sounds like the competitors had fun and they really enjoyed it. So hopefully we can come back again next year. But yeah, it was a real awesome opportunity for us. They did work really hard. Just like most competitions go, there's always headaches and stress, but High Point, they handle it really well, and they produce a really good show. If you are able, I would highly recommend going out to Utah and seeing the National Cup Series, National Cup. These events are always super fun for the fans, and the more turnout we get, the better show that's going to be put on, and these athletes will really enjoy that. So if you're able to show out to that National Cup in Utah.
Absolutely. It's going to be it's at the Salt Palace. It's a fantastic venue. And, all of these athletes are going to come out and just try their absolute hardest. Everybody, they all want to win competitions, but everybody wants a shot at the national champion title. And the way this series has been going, there's so many of these competitors who've been following the series that are just lined up. Anybody could take it. We saw Nick Milburn and Kyra Condi come so close tonight to knocking down the champs, and honestly, they may not win overall, but they could become national champions. So, we might see Kyra Condi or Brooke Rabitu or some other dark horse come through and essentially take national champion out from underneath these competitors who have been sitting pretty in first throughout the entire season.
Yeah, just like all these comps, there's always that one dark horse that comes in and really impresses people. With Zach Gala this comp, and prior comps, there's always been that one dark horse. So don't chalk Nathaniel up for a champion yet. He can get beat, and that podium can be taken from him. So it will be exciting to watch.
Definitely. Even if you look at it, last year Nathaniel Coleman took 5th behind Tyler Landman, Carlo Traversi, Daniel Woods, and Sean Rabitu. So, just in 1 year, we've seen Nathaniel Coleman go from 5th place all the way to 1st throughout this series. But watching these competitors, it's just so impressive to see how they fluctuate, who's strong 1 year and not 1 year, who's in the right mindset, who's got that gusto. And it's going to be really cool leading into this National Open Championship to really see who pulls out all the stops and takes that crown.
Yeah, I need to get on Nathaniel's training program to jump that high in 1 year. That was really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently he slacklines, and there was something else that he does that was really interesting as well. Whatever it is, we got to get on it.
Definitely worked for him.
Just a couple more minutes, guys. Stick with us. We're going to be doing awards. We're going to be handing out medals, getting people on podiums, wrapping this night up. It was really cool to see how all of those ladies kind of worked out women's too. You know, all of them struggled with it. I don't think anybody got out of the cave their first try, and it's really neat to see how each one figured it out. Margot was able to campus her way out. You know, a lot of the girls just kind of went for the old jump and swing. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting move to watch them struggle with.
Yeah, what's really cool about this time is a lot of these fans and even other competitors are climbing some of these boulders that are set, trying some of the women are trying some of the men's boulders. The men's are trying some of the women's boulders, so it's really fun to watch those people. Fun fact, we had a citizens comp earlier today, and Brooke Rabbitu's mom took out first place in her division from the citizens comp.
And that's her there that you can see on the screen with the long blonde hair. She is still a crusher, as she always has been, and it obviously shows in her kids. Sean Rabitou taking overall last year, and her daughter, Brooke Rabitou, just crushing it throughout the season this year. So it's in the genes, people. It's in the genes. And I'm sure a whole lot of hard work, too. It's really interesting that men's four, watching the climbers on that problem, the one that we're kind of seeing the top half of right now above the podium. I figured more people would make it through to that 10 and struggle getting to the finish, but honestly, it seemed to be a struggle just to get out of those press moves.
Yeah, watching the setters forerun those boulders, I know those setters love those press moves, and they seem to be struggling through that. So coming into it, I figured that was going to be a little bit of a struggle for some of these competitors, especially some of these that aren't really big in the comp climbing, because you don't really get the pressing a lot outside. It's more just pull hard. So it's really exciting to see some of these competitors try to figure that out. And someone like Zach Gala, who he's a little bit shorter, so he can fit in that little spot a little bit better, but just figuring that out, but unable to get past that one hold, that really huge sloper hold that everyone seemed to have struggled with, except for Nathaniel and Ben.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is getting out from there, we saw a handful of people be able to reach out to the slopey arete just to the right, and that kind of helped them pull through that. A lot of the competitors who gained that 10-point hold on men's four were able to cross to it. So, you know, it's like sometimes it's that experience or just finding that hold that's not a bolted hold on the wall, but that was able to pull them over and allow them to do that move. So that just goes to smart rock climbing and experience. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that sometimes just splits the difference between the competitors who make podium and the competitors that don't.
Yeah, and that was crafty route setting by the setters here to kind of utilize. I think that was attended beta to use that side of the arete. It's not a great spot to grab, but it was just enough to get these competitors over and able to control. As you saw, Daniel and Carla both had trouble, and I don't think any of them used that side, and you saw it cost them a lot there.
Yeah, and what's interesting is testament to the route setters, you know, challenging all the competitors in similar ways. You know, it's almost like they had this checklist of what they wanted to do. We saw that on women's one as well, where you know, there's that balancy slabby problem where they had to drop down, and the competitors who were successful were the ones who were able to again reach out to the right, grab onto that arete, and be able to make the move up to the number 10 hold on women's one. So you know, again, challenging these competitors to think outside the box and not just use the holds that were bolted to the wall.
A huge shout out to all of our hold sponsors too, providing these cool new holds. I know a lot of these holds y'all have seen, some of them y'all haven't even seen yet, so it's real awesome for the sponsor holds to send us some of these holds so we could play with them and have fun.
Yeah, you know, it's really great because the European holds are kind of breaking into the American market in the last year or so, as we saw with flat holds, as we're seeing now with 360 and Cheetah. And for somebody who follows the IFSC, you know, a lot of those competitors, I mean, that's a lot of the holds. What you see, the American competitors who go over there and climb on them, they know those. But for the most part, it's a new challenge for American competitors who haven't climbed on them or haven't climbed on them that much. You don't know where the good spot on the hold is. You don't know how the hold feels, and that adds that little bit of risk or that little bit of being insecure or unsure before a move because you're not sure what you're grabbing. So seeing those European holds break in the market is awesome, and it looks like we're about to get started with awards. Also Also, a little mini shout out down there to Al, who's doing the emceeing, because I've emceed before and it is a very hard job. You're trying to keep that crowd psyched. You're trying to announce what's going on, and you've got to keep that energy high and yell into that microphone. So kudos to Al.
And looking mighty dapper too. I mean,
Yeah,
brought out the suit jacket.
he did not come in wearing that, so it was quite the shock when he walked out looking so good.
We're going from 8th place. We got Austin Guyman.
Austin Guyman in 8th place.
In 7th place, we got Daniel Woods.
Daniel Woods in 7th, if you guys can't hear.
Podium. He's with it.
I'm not quite sure how the climbers are going to get onto their podiums or get past each other. This will be a really interesting task.
Yeah, it'd be very scary to hit those lights under those holds. As you see Nick Foltz, I guess, taking 5th place.
Ben Hanna there, 4th.
And our podium, ladies and gentlemen, give it up. For 3rd place, we got Zach Gala.
Zach Gala, the Southeastern representative, coming in 3rd.
Youth climber out of Stone Summit.
Stone Summit's got a really strong youth team. They might be giving ABC a run for their money soon.
Yeah, they had a handful of the climbers here at this competition during qualifying, and they were all climbing very, very strong.
And the man,
Nick Milburn on second podium there, taking silver, and here we've got Nathaniel Coleman taking his place at the top of the podium.
looks a little awkward up there for Nick.
He's got to take notes from Nathaniel. Squat down. There you go.
Got to get that beta.
And those are your podium winners for the high point climbing here, Southern Grit.
Nick trying to sneak over there in that first place podium spot.
He was there for a while, then Nathaniel finished it up.
Don't forget the payout, you know what I'm saying?
So you can get a good shot of the crowd. They were a trooper. They stuck it out. They cheered really loud. They were a driving force for this competition.
Ben Hanna happy about that check he was just handed.
I would be too.
All top 8 do get a check for competing. There's a tiered system, but it's definitely worth making it to finals. Definitely worth for these climbers making it to the podium. You can tell they all want it too.
6th place, Audrey Miller.
You got Audrey there in 6th.
She's another Stone Summit climber.
And 5th, Maya Madera.
Maya Madera pulling up 5th place.
In 4th place, we have Brooke Rabitou.
Brooke Rabitou in 4th place. Not surprising, she's such a strong climber, and she's young too. I can't wait to see what happens in her future.
Margot trying to get up on that podium there. Tyra, point 1 away from tying first, point 2 away from taking that first. That's real exciting.
Yeah. And then Miss Alex Puccio taking her 3rd win of the season. Does not need a boost onto that podium.
Nice. She had to think about how to get up there for a second there.
And there are your female competitors and podium winners here at High Point Southern Grit Climbing Competition, the 4th and last competition of the National Cup Series.
It's been an exciting series. Really, really exciting for that National Cup coming up in Utah.
The crowd going wild for all the competitors as we wrap up here. And that is it for the Southern Grit Climbing Competition here at High Point Climbing and Fitness in Birmingham. A huge thank you to the gym for hosting this awesome comp. It is the last leg of the 2017-2018 National Cup Series, which means that next up is the Bouldering Open Nationals in Salt Lake City, Utah on February 2nd and 3rd. So make sure that you guys tune in next month to LT11 TV to watch it, or if you can make it, get your hot buns down there, watch the best in the U.S. compete for the national or the title of national champion. And in the meantime, thank you guys so much for tuning into this live stream tonight. Have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.